Welcome to another episode of the I'm Doing Great podcast. What a day. We've got a great guest here in the studio with us. It is episode number 13. Episode 13.
Lucky 13.
Episode 13. You know what I said? Don't say anything. Okay?
Because it's a surprise who's on the show, right?
Right. Let's do it right this time.
Okay.
Before I get into anything, I want to give a big thank you to Fog City Vintage. They are one and only sponsor as of right now. We love them. They love us. They love what we do. We love what they do. And they sell watches. They sell vintage watches. They sell vintage Rolexes, Audemars Piguets, APs, and Patek Philippe's, PPs. If you guys are looking for that, hit up Fog City Vintage at Fog City Vintage on Instagram and fogcityvintage.com. Gina is currently looking for a watch for her husband. I'm currently looking for a watch for myself. They're not cheap. Okay, we don't mess with the cheap stuff. Okay, expensive watches, decent cameras, good mics.
That was your best one so far.
I think so. Right?
I think so. Yeah, you were really feeling it.
I think if I get it down to like an actual read, it might be better. But they never sent anything.
I think it was the presence of our guests that really inspired that.
So, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce to you our guest for episode 13, Savanah Rodriguez. Savanah Hernandez.
Hey, at least you got my first name right, Mike.
He'll definitely misspell your first name in the description.
Oh, this is also a first on the podcast as well. All three guests are mixed race. We have a Korean Italian.
That's correct.
We have a Filipino Mexican, and then we have a Salvadorian Russian, I guess.
Right. Yeah.
Nice. I like it. We're getting full coverage here, so we can basically say whatever we want on this show.
We're basically the diversity, inclusivity, and equity officers. Are those the right words?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, people often, I joke online that Savanah is my little sister because she, in many ways, is what's the saying? Sister from another mister. Mm-hmm. Is that what the kids say? People believe me. They're like, "Oh, I can totally see the resemblance between you guys," and I'm like, "Well, that's really racist."
Savanah looks like my first girlfriend ever, Joanna. She looks exactly.
Did you almost say her last name? But
no,
then you
I
didn't?
edited it out by myself.
Okay. I see.
But
important.
On camera, it didn't quite, like, not so much. But then when she walked in, I was like, oh my God, I'm getting flashbacks and what do they call it? Soldiers usually get a PTSD.
Yeah, PTSD.
Her grandparents were going to walk behind
But you know
her.
who Sav really looks like? And the last time that Sav came to visit me, it was for my baby shower. The U.S. Open tennis, the U.S. Open finals were on. And there was this tennis player, I think she was 18 or 19, and she was not a wild card, or she was a qualifier to even get into the tournament. Her name is Emma Raducanu. I want you guys to look her up right now because she is Savannah's kind of less pretty twin. Do you know who this tennis player is? I mean,
she's less pretty?
No.
Yes. No, definitely.
No, obviously.
The tennis player's way cuter.
Obviously, Emma is less pretty, but it's just, I was watching the whole tournament and I was like, Mom, look, looks just like Savanah. And my whole family was like, it looks just like Savanah. And then you came to my house when the final was on.
And I was like, it's me. It's me on TV.
Really?
It looks so much like Sav. And this girl is half Chinese, half Russian, I think.
Okay, that seems appropriate.
Interesting mix. Yeah.
Are you happy that you don't have a control panel in front of you?
I am. It's nice to actually be a guest here. Usually I'm behind the desk producing shows, which I've done for,
I'm
exactly.
you of this show.
Exactly.
Sab, why don't you tell our listeners what you do?
Sure. So I am a political commentator. I'm the producer for Slightly Offensive with Elijah Schaefer.
Get that mic closer to your face, like I said before.
Yeah, get in there. Really make love
I want your lips almost touching it.
I'm also touching this microphone with my lips. I'm a political commentator. I'm a reporter. I worked for Alex Jones for a bit. I've been in the industry for about 5 years at this point. Probably my biggest flex is being retweeted by Donald Trump and going and covering the 2020 BLM riots, Antifa riots, going to Hong Kong and covering their pro-democracy protests back when the CCP was trying to take over.
Don't trust China. China's asshole.
China is asshole.
Yes, exactly.
I love that guy.
I love that guy.
He was amazing. So that's a little bit of who I am, just.
She also got kicked off of Twitter, street cred.
Yeah.
Are you back on or no?
I am back on at rapidfire_pod, but more importantly, I'm on Truth Social at Sav Says. I'm retaking my original username, and I'll be on that platform.
Do political commentators have to always talk so fucking fast?
Why? Do you think they talk? See, it's funny because my husband also says that Savanah talks really fast, but I feel like
I'm sorry that you
talk
talk slow, Mike. Maybe you should catch up.
It's time for thinking. So I can think as I talk.
No, that's smart. I would really love to slow down, but my podcast, I have my own too. It's called Rapid Fire because I talk so fast. And it's actually my viewers who named
clever.
it that because they were like, bitch, slow the fuck down. Pardon my French, everybody.
And she asked for like a cup of coffee before she starts.
Yeah,
obviously,
exactly.
So that's
She's like,
not
I'm
gonna
feeling. She's talking in the car. I'm really, really tired.
help. You guys talk Asian to each other?
Yeah, we do.
Well, we talk more ghetto to each other, I think. Savannah and I talk kind of
it's
ghetto
like
to each
it's
other.
like Tokyo Drift kind of ghetto. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like a little bit Asian, a little bit
like,
hood.
yeah.
Depends.
Yeah.
Yeah, Savannah is one of those people. Like last night, I think we kind of like lost track of time. I was gonna do all these things at night before I went to bed, and then all of a sudden it's like 11 o'clock. We've been talking up a storm. But one of the things I want to talk about today that we kind of talked about last night is you are not the brainchild, but you are a protege of Alex Jones.
A little bit.
And so what I
say.
think is really interesting, so I'm sure that there's definitely some overlap. Some people who listen to us, who also listen to Sav and love her. I didn't even know this being a friend of yours, that when you started working at InfoWars, you were not into politics.
Not at all. Okay.
What were you doing there then?
Yeah, that was exactly my question last
Yeah.
night to her. Yeah.
Let me give you guys a little bit of a background in history. So I was homeschooled. So I graduated from homeschooling, aka took my GED when I was 16 because I hated being homeschooled. I absolutely hated it. Super social person. Me and my mom would butt heads all the time. And I went to school up until the 4th grade. So I did experience public school a little bit. Have a big personality. I'm a very social person. Being homeschooled was really hard for me. So I was like, F this, taking my GED. And I ended up starting community college at 16.
Wow.
I graduated college at 20 with my bachelor's degree in journalism. But at that point, I realized I liked broadcast journalism and I needed that extra year to get experience because you can't get an entry-level job in media until you have 2 years of experience. And so I was living at home with my parents after graduating, and I was throwing my resume out to any company I could. I was working at the Cheesecake Factory at that point as a server, and then I was doing freelance work, throwing my resume out everywhere. And then they called me up and they were like, hey, have you ever heard of InfoWars? And I was like, no, what's that? And they were like, oh, we're a political show. We're a radio show based in Austin, Texas.
We're the conspiracy theorists of America.
I had no idea who they were. And I was like, I'm in no position to say no to a job opportunity because I did look them up on YouTube and I was like, this is interesting. But okay.
Did you have a political ideology at this point, or?
I was more conservative leaning because my parents were, but I was very much like like if someone wants to get an abortion, like that's their personal choice. Then as a Christian, I never would, but like.
That's what we talked about yesterday.
Yeah, which is the wrong opinion.
Yeah, and now
wrong
I'm
opinion I also
very
used to hold.
hard lined on everything. Sorry, Gina, I'm like talking over you because you're like over there, and
That's
I can't.
No, you're the star here. Keep going.
Well, I
so
almost put
sorry.
you two together.
You should have.
I should have, but
You
then
mean
it
like
was
next to each other?
Yeah, but then it was like the thing with like John and I yesterday. It was just kind of
It was
too
a little
close,
too
and we
close.
seemed like we
you
were
guys
in like
couldn't
a
even like
timeout.
look at each other. I was a bit uncomfortable watching you like.
Yeah, so this
like,
is better, right?
So guys.
Yeah. So InfoWars calls you up, or I guess a recruiter calls you up.
Yeah, and they're like, we need a production assistant. I go and I meet with them, and they're like, great. Are you interested in reporting as well? And I was like, yeah, for sure. I'm interested in, asking people about the political spectrum and their ideologies, just because at that point I was really curious about politics. I'd always been curious about it, but it's such a big issue and subject. And because I didn't have the probably like background high school wise as I should have, because I just took my GED and was like, all right, we're out, boys. I'm not going to learn math or history. Bye. Alex kind of taught me my history. He taught me a lot about politics. And so I started working as a production assistant. I would go out and do man on the streets, holding the InfoWars mic, not even knowing who I was working for. The first time I shook Alex Jones's hand, I had no idea who he was. And then I started getting attacked a lot on the street. I went to the border at Tijuana in California. I had 2 grown men try to assault me and beat me up on the beach because we were at the border. Yeah, we were at the border and they tried to beat me up because I had the InfoWars mic, and I almost started crying on live television because I was doing a live hit on Alex's show. And I went to Alex and I was like, I don't think I can do this anymore. I don't know enough about politics, and this is so crazy. And so I took a step back, and then I produced The War Room with Owen Schroyer for a year. So that was me, my production side. And then I started getting really passionate about politics because of everything that I was seeing, because I was listening to Alex lay out all of these things. And so many people say that he's an entertainer and that he's entertainment because they don't listen to his show every single day.
Yeah, they call him a performance artist.
I worked on his show for every single day for a year. And then I worked on Owen's show. I helped produce like 2 3-hour shows a day. Great crew, InfoWars crew, some of the hardest working crew you'll ever find. And I learned so much about not only American history and politics, but internationally what was going on, all of these various politicians, who they were connected to, the World Economic Forum, the Great Reset, the UN. So imagine knowing nothing about politics, and then it's like, yeah, globalists are trying to take over, and they're also drinking baby blood, and pedophilia is running loose, and we're all going to die. And yeah, Joe Biden has dementia, and this is our life. And I'm just like, this was a really fun crash course into
The frogs are gay.
Yeah,
They're turning
I was
the
like,
frogs gay.
what's going on?
I tried to do an Alex Jones impression. I can't do it just because I can't get my. I can't do it, guys.
You gotta get your
I can't do
voice
it. You gotta get your voice really down.
Yeah.
I think the frogs are turning gay. That's probably what's going on. Let me. I can't. But I got the twang at the end
you
of it.
probably got to have a little more whiskey before you.
It's gotta
Yeah.
be really low. It's really gravelly.
That's
really
nowhere
gravelly.
close.
Really
That's nowhere
Probably 'cause
close.
she's a
It's
female.
awful. You
Probably
shouldn't do
that, yeah. But yeah.
Did
so
you have security at that interview on the border yet, or did they provide? Okay, because that's scary.
Alex did provide security for me, and he and I actually fought a lot, because not even fought, but he really wanted me. Okay. I really wanted to go and cover the riots in 2020. I wanted to be at every single one. I wanted to be in Chop Chaz in Seattle. I wanted to be in Kenosha on the ground. I wanted
with
to
an
be at
InfoWars
everything.
mic, imagine that.
Oh my gosh.
Well, at that point, I wasn't holding the InfoWars mic anymore. At that point, I was Action 7. So Alex was like, create your own brand so you don't get attacked. Because Alex didn't want me to get attacked either.
But they'll figure out who you are sooner than later anyway. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I had Action 7 at that point, and I wanted to be at all of these riots. And Alex was like, Sav, I don't want you out on the ground because I don't want you to get hurt. And so Alex was not trying to stop me from going out and covering things, but he obviously was like, you're female. Like, I'm not going to try to send you to go get tear gassed and maced with all these communists on the street. And then stubborn Sav was like, I want to go. I want to be at all the riots and blah, blah, blah.
Because you had been radicalized at that point.
Yeah, because I was like, Alex, I have to do this for our country. I got to go.
I love that.
But yeah, Alex was always super supportive of me and my career and everything. And I forgot how I even got onto that topic of, the security.
Yeah.
So once Alex realized this was something I really wanted to do, he would send me out with like 10 security guards. He was like, fine, Sav, if you want to do this, like, I'm going to make sure you're safe. Alex takes such good care of his people. So whenever I, was doing this, he was making sure that I had all of the equipment that I needed and my body armor and blah, blah, blah. And then I was going out and covering these riots. I got a pretty big Twitter following. And then Donald Trump retweeted me. And then, all my footage and entire career subsequently got deleted.
Oh, jeez. Isn't that insane, though, to the point of, like, needing security? Because, like, who is it? Avi Yemini in Australia travels with security. Yeah. You had security at one point. Who's the blonde girl that was doing stuff for InfoWars? I don't know if she was doing it for Owen's show, but she would go out and interview people as well.
Ashton Birdie, maybe?
No,
I don't know.
John talked about her for like a second yesterday.
I don't know.
Was it Katie something?
Maybe. I mean, Sav would know better than I would.
Yeah, I have no idea.
She was just very peppy and had like long blonde hair and would try and do like little gotcha things.
Oh, Caitlin Bennett. Yeah.
Like she would have security.
Caitlin, yeah.
Like it's kind of like an
Caitlin.
odd world where like independent journalists have to travel with security. And I know news crews do this when they're covering riots. They have like actual like contractors with them.
Right.
But like, how is Sav intimidating at all? Like, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know. And then there's another clip of yours that kind of went viral is when it was at one of the BLM riots and Sav. I was genuinely worried. I was texting you. I was like, girl, you need to be careful because you were walking into a BLM crowd holding up some kind of pro-police sign.
Yeah.
Just no shame, no fear. She's over there. What did the sign? Oh, it said Police Lives Matter.
And then
she's
the back-
holding up the Police Lives Matter sign, just like in the middle of all the BLM people.
Was
and then
that-
one girl lunged at you and you dodged out of the way.
Yeah.
And she like went flying past you.
One of my greatest life achievements is Laura Ingraham, because I got on her show because of that. She goes, great shoulder check. And I was just like, thank you.
So
you.
wait,
it was a good
was that a provocateur move or a provocative thing to do, or are you a bootlicking simp for the police?
Let me explain this to you in
Oh,
multiple
boy.
parts here. So, first off, going back to how I even got to that point of wanting to go protest BLM, I wasn't trying to be a provocateur and make them angry or anything, or like go just try to create content like a lot of people will do. I genuinely went there with the intent of being like, F you guys are communists, you're domestic terrorists, and it is absolutely ridiculous that on the streets of America, I can't stand up with a sign that says Police Lives Matter without getting attacked. Well, I'm going to go do it anyway because you don't own the streets. I'm a free American. I have the First Amendment. F you, and I'm going to stand up for police, because at this point, we were already 3 months into the George Floyd scam riots that were all based on a lie. Point blank, George Floyd died from a fentanyl overdose, not because there was a knee on his neck. You can go watch the body footage yourself.
I watched
the
whole like hour of it.
Yeah, George
Multiple
Floyd
times,
asked
yeah.
to be put
He was
on the
begging
ground.
to be put on the ground.
And he was
Begging.
saying he couldn't breathe in the back of the police
remember
car.
that, yeah.
So the entire Black Lives Matter movement in 2020 was based off of a lie. The media was lying to us. They were covering for BLM, saying that they were peaceful protesters. We saw police officers in Washington, D.C. getting pelted with bricks, being attacked from multiple angles all over the nation. This was happening. So this was about 3 months into that, and me just watching all of this unfold and just getting angrier and angrier that nobody was standing up and doing anything. And then I realized, why am I not doing anything? And I was covering a BLM riot in Austin, Texas. They were burning down cars. They were looting stores downtown. And this white liberal guy gets out of his car because BLM had shut down the road. And he just goes, hey guys, we appreciate what you're trying to do, but can you please just, like, some of us need to get to work, gets socked in the face.
Oh my gosh.
This is another
Poetic
clip that not
justice.
a lot of people know about. Gets socked in the face, glasses fly off. And me, a glasses wearer, was like, this is an atrocity. This is a hate crime to all glasses wearers. So this poor little nerd's looking for his glasses.
Oh, I remember seeing that footage. That really made me upset. I felt
The
bad
guy
for the guy.
punches him again. And I'm standing there
Oh, you
surrounded.
were there.
I'm taking this footage and I'm standing there watching grown men do nothing. So I say, okay, I guess Sav has to be the one to step in. And so I stepped in the middle of this man, of these two men, because this little nerd's getting beat up. And I said, leave him alone and let him get his glasses. And so that was one of the first times I stood up to BLM, because I was like, it is absolutely disgusting that I'm living in a country with grown-ass men who will watch their fellow American get beat up and attacked on the street and do nothing to step in. And I said, you know what? I'm going to capitalize on being a woman and being brown, because apparently that's something that's going to keep me protected. I was fully ready to get punched in the face by a 6-foot black man at that point, but he knew that if he punched me, it was going to actually be a problem. Little man got his glasses, went back
It was
in
a
his
white
car.
guy too, right? It was like
Yeah.
a little nerdy white guy.
Nerdy white guy. I felt bad. No one was stepping in for him. So that was the first time where it's like this anger. And now that I'm thinking about this, it's like the passion's coming out, the anger's coming out. That was one of the things that I saw, that I was like, you're a domestic terrorist. You're not even from Austin, Texas. You're going to come to my city and burn things down. I don't think so. And then that was the first thing that happened. Then I'm watching all of the footage of cops just getting ravaged across this damn nation. I'm watching CNN say these are mostly peaceful protesters while there's fires raging. I'm watching the media completely lie to us every single day. And so David Dorn, the reason why I did that protest is because David Dorn was viciously murdered by Black Lives Matter militants for going and protecting his friend's pawn shop. He was a former police officer. So my protest it was for police, but it was also for David Dorn. The front side of my sign said Police Lives Matter. The back sign said, say his name, David Dorn.
Right.
Because if Black Lives Matter really cared about Black lives, they would be standing up for David Dorn, who was, again, left behind a family, left behind, I believe, grandchildren as well.
And
They
his murder
murdered
was
him.
never investigated, of course, right?
No, they
They
were
Still
just
just
to
like,
walked
this
away
day?
free. I think still to this
RIP.
day. Yeah, I think they just
See,
nothing.
the thing is for me, and I don't know if we'll disagree or if we'll agree, is like that is, I think, a justifiable reason to support police. But when I see things that are happening in New York City, when you have policemen who are arresting people for not having vax cards or wanting to eat in restaurants, or police up in Toronto who are arresting truckers and anybody who
we'll
donates
get
any
there,
money.
Mike.
I know.
We'll get
So it's just
there.
like I see where you're coming from.
So it was because David Dorn unjustly died, and because there are good.
That was
police-
the impetus for that.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why I went and I did that, because I was like, BLM is full of shit. Pardon my French here,
You
but
can
they
say it.
100% are. And I'm going to go prove it by going and standing up at a Black Lives Matter rally for a black man, which is what I was there to do. Now, they were at Austin City Council, and I went and I stood opposite of their entire protest. I didn't go into their protest. I didn't go, and I wasn't screaming. I went and I stood silently on the street corner, because I wanted police in Austin to know, because they were being targeted and severely defunded at that point too, that, hey, there is somebody that cares about you, and there is somebody that knows that not all of you are bad, and you genuinely do care about your community, and that there's a lot of bad democratic policy being pushed right now, and you guys are being targeted. I just want one person to know that you are cared for.
Is this where the shoulder check happened?
Yes.
Yeah, it was.
So I go and do that, and then all of the BLMers are coming up to me, and
I'm going to try and find it, and I'll put it up on the TV.
Yeah, you should be able to find it.
they are telling me that I'm an idiot, I'm a white supremacist, that they're upset that they're seeing this, and the most interesting part of this clip, and the reason why I'm glad it went so viral is because there were black drag queens there. There were drag queens there.
There were drag queens there
at the BLM event, and they came up and they said,
"Okay, I remember you because you were kind of you ended up being friendly with one of them."
Both of them, because they said, we don't agree with her message, but violence is not the answer and it's not the way. You need to leave her alone.
Why were they in drag?
Because they I don't know. They were just
they're
in drag.
Satanist liberals.
Oh, is this the attacked at BLM protest for holding police? Okay, yeah. I'm gonna put this up. I'll obviously put it into the video in post because I can't do everything.
So BLM said that I targeted them and I was trying to create content. They knew I knew I was going to get attacked. So I said, okay, I'll go do another pro-police protest in front of the Austin Police Department. That second time, I got attacked again. That went viral as well. And then that's when I got on Laura Ingraham. Because she had seen that footage again. Because I was like, well, I'm still going to go and express my First Amendment.
I thought we escaped the train.
Yeah, no, I thought we did. It's probably a loud motorcycle, but that's fine. Go ahead, Steph. Sorry,
we just heard a sound.
You want me to wait?
No, go ahead. Go ahead. You're good.
It's
You're
gone
good.
now. Yeah.
Okay. Basically, just wanted to go express my First Amendment, and did both of those protests.
So when you're out here on the streets, Ab, because I always wonder this when I watch you, do you get nervous? Do you get scared?
100%. I remember sitting in my car before going out with that sign and saying, I don't have to do this. No one will know if I don't do it.
Right.
I don't have to. And I was so nervous and my body was shaking. And then I said, this isn't about me. This is about my country. This is about David Dorn. And I'm going to go stand with my sign peacefully.
Yeah. I mean, I think only a person who is a product of Alex Jones could do that.
Should we watch this?
Yeah, let's watch it.
Okay. I'm putting it up on the screen.
Oh, you were so...
And you can talk through it if you want to. So you're there all by yourself.
See, I'm over here in the corner. I'm not trying to infiltrate their protest. I'm standing on the street.
Just the way she's standing.
There's a fucking place for that. Get the fuck out of here.
Jeez.
You look like a fucking idiot. You look like a fucking idiot. You look like a fucking idiot.
I'm just filming.
Get that shit out of my fucking face. Get the fuck out of my
She attacked me multiple times, this girl.
God, liberal white women are just public enemy
She's
number one.
Hispanic.
They are the
bro.
worst of the worst.
Get out of here with your stupid shit.
They are the first to have their
Get the
voting
fuck
rights
out of
stripped
here,
away from
stupid
them.
ass son. You look like a fucking idiot.
Ma'am, you're not,
Get the fuck out of here. I don't give a fuck, bitch.
Is this the one that you shoulder checked though?
Yeah.
You look like a stupid bitch. Fuck police lives. Fuck police lives.
See, they're getting so angry, and I'm just standing there like, okay. See, so this is the drag queen that steps in because she's like, this is not the way to do this. And I'm just standing there, and they just keep coming up to me because they're so angry.
Let her do her. Wow. An ally.
And I watched as people came towards
Wait, so is that a dude?
It's not okay. We can't advocate
No,
for
she's a
peace.
woman.
And we're attacking people. Let her do what she want to do.
I'm curious about what you've heard.
You look cute though, Sav.
This is
Thanks.
extremely distressing to me.
So she's lucky that I knew cameras are rolling because as you can see, I walk up to her, and then I turn around because I was like, I can't punch this woman in the face. I can't.
You wanted to.
Because you can see in this, as soon as I shoulder check her, I run back to her and I'm like, no. We're calming down.
Is
She comes
she
back
like-
and she grabs me in the back of the head and pulls my hair at the end of that.
Oh, yeah, I
And I
forgot
still
about
did
that
not
part.
retaliate because I was like,
I'm gonna go put a light.
Mija, we can get really hood really quick. But I was like, that's not what this is about. And this is my frustration too. And this is why I went through a phase of being anti-police, because I was like, oh, wow, I can't defend myself. The police don't give a damn. Should I wait?
No, go ahead.
Okay, sorry.
This is how we do things, and I'm doing great.
We are what they call authentic.
Well, I totally forgot to charge these last night.
Oh, did you?
Oh, that's okay.
And so when was that? That was 2020?
This was in 2020.
Gosh,
so
that feels like yesterday.
both of those protests happened at the same time. I'm still covering Black Lives Matter and Antifa across the nation and extensively in Austin. So at that point, I kind of had a target on my back because not only had I gone and protested them, but I was also infiltrating their groups and just exposing the illegal activity that they were doing in our city, burning things down, looting businesses, just stoking chaos in the city, right? So what ended up happening in November of 2020 is I was covering one of their rallies, and Alex said, hey, take a security guard with you if you go cover this tonight. And I was like, okay, I will. And Fonz, good old Fonz, that was my security guard. I love Fonz. I was like, no, I'm going to let Fonz have the night off. I'm not going to go. I drive past it because it's me, and I'm like, let me just check it out. And it's pretty big. And there was this other local live streamer in Austin who was there, and he was getting attacked. And I was like, that's good footage. So I was like, I'll just go infiltrate.
So you went by yourself?
Yeah, I was like, I'll go infiltrate for like 45 minutes. No big deal. They end up harassing this live streamer. They're marching. They're getting arrested. And I'm trying not to laugh, but they're getting arrested, and it's hilarious. And I'm like, yeah, get wrecked, Lib. And so I'm just like sitting here getting the footage. Again, all neutral. I'm not, in the group trying to stoke tensions. I'm just there observing and taking footage. Somebody finds out who I am, and they go, that's Savanah Hernandez, get her. I'm getting mobbed by 10 people at this point. The men are pushing me down so the women can kick me. They steal my phone. And
What kind of dudes are these, like, honestly?
Mike, this is the period of my transition in which Savanah becomes anti-police. So this happens. I get mobbed and robbed and attacked. They didn't expect me to punch back, which is why I got out of there fairly unscathed, because as soon as they pushed me down and I had 10 people surrounding me, I was like, all right, now I get to defend myself.
Yeah.
And I grabbed one of them down with me. And then they were like, oh my gosh, get our friend, because I was ready to like go out swinging. And then I like just put my hands up and I was like, let me leave, let me go. And they were like, yeah, just get out, get out, get out. So they roughed me up. They took my phone. I go up to the police and I'm like, hey, APD, there's a cop that was following the group. I was like, I just got mobbed by these people. They just tried to beat me up. My car's about a mile away. Can I just get an escort to my car? Also, I just got mobbed by that exact group walking right there. And they just said, we'll call the police department and file a complaint. And we can't take you to your car. Sorry.
It just upsets me. It deeply upsets me.
And then
especially, just want to interject, especially when at this point, there were quite a few people, reporters, people online. There was a lot of support for police at this point.
Yeah.
It was like people were really coming out to support the police. And there was plenty of support to where the police could see that and understand that there were a lot of conservatives. I mean, not even necessarily conservatives, but just people who were coming out and supported the police.
Yeah.
And then they consistently did shit like this.
Yeah.
That's what really, really pisses me off.
And so that happened. And then I went to all of the Million MAGA marches. And then I watched Trump supporting grandpas get beat up. And then when somebody pushed back, the cops arrested the Trump supporters who were being mobbed. I watched that happen multiple times. I remember a moment after the Million MAGA march when I still had my Twitter account. I did a live stream and I said, look, this isn't a joke. Do not go out on the streets of DC. The police will not help you. They will arrest you if you defend yourself.
Yeah.
This isn't a joke. It's not a game. These are domestic terrorists that have been allowed to ravage our streets, just completely ravage our streets. You're not allowed to protect yourself. Don't come out on the streets of DC. They were, like I said, just Trump flag, set up. They were destroying them on the sides of the streets. They were going crazy. They were lighting fires, setting the American flag on fire. I told people, don't come out. The police aren't going to help you. I watched the police be complacent as this happened over and over and over. And then I went through my period of being a little bit of an anarchist and just like, you know what, if the police aren't going to defend them, then they're no friend of mine.
See, I think people don't understand how little the police care about our support. So I was working for Blexit at the time it was October of 2020, where Candace decided that we were going to host the largest minority-led pro-police march ever in the history of the U.S.
I remember.
And we pulled it off. We brought in over 2,000 minorities from around the country, and we marched through D.C., but Pierre and I had to plan the whole thing, basically. I mean, we stayed up many, many nights. I think that's when I developed many, many gray hairs. It was such a stressful thing because we planned it all within like 3 weeks, less than 3 weeks. So obviously you have to contact the police whenever you're planning like a huge rally like this. And when you know that you have to, because they have to close down the streets for you to do a march.
Yeah.
So I got in touch with a lieutenant sergeant or whatever, because Pierre called me one day and he said, look, I just spoke to one of the sergeants and they begged us not to do the event. And I said, what do you mean? This is a pro-police march. And Pierre said, I don't know what to do, G. He was like, I think I'm just going to defer this to you. He was like, all I could do is say, I'm going to let you speak to my superior because I don't, he's like, the ball's rolling. Pierre's like, we can't stop this event because apparently the police officer was like begging him to call it off. So then I call this guy. I don't even know what his title was, lieutenant sergeant, whatever. So he has one of his colleagues also on the phone with me and I have him on speaker because I was at home with I think it was me and my husband Adriano, and I had him on speaker. My dad happened to be there too. I had them both listening on speaker because I wanted other people to hear this conversation. He was so rude on the phone. He said to me, listen, you don't realize how much you're going to be hurting us by doing this march. And I said, sir, this is a pro-police. This is a pro-law enforcement march that sends a very clear message that minorities don't hate you and they don't fear you in this country. And he said, listen, he says, you're calling my guys to come out and do overtime. We don't want your help. We don't want your support. And he was getting kind of nasty with me. It wasn't just like, please don't do this because it's going to be a lot of work, and please don't do this because it might cause trouble. He was getting really nasty with me. He had an attitude. He was talking down to me. Yeah. And he said,
that's how they always talk.
It's how they always talk,
dude.
because they think they're the shit because they've got some kind of uniform on. And he said to me, he was like, you really have no idea. You have no idea what this is the toll it's going to take on us.
What city was this?
This is in DC, obviously.
Okay.
And so I said to him, he was like, this is going to hurt my guys more than anything else. You're going to hurt us. He said, it's ironic, isn't it? You're doing a pro-police thing that's going to hurt the police. And I said to him, sir, this is not about the DC police. I said, this is so much more than your guys having. I said, I'm sorry it's an inconvenience that your guys have to work overtime, or you have to may have to have a couple extra guys
complain about overtime.
Come out on a Saturday. I know, exactly. I'm sorry you have to have a couple extra guys come out on a Saturday. I said, but this is not about the DC police. I said, this is about a nationwide movement for minorities to really take a stand and send a national message to say that we don't fear the police. Mm-hmm. And he got so nasty with me. Finally, I said to him, I said, it really sounds to me like your political leanings are really leading you to try and make me cancel this event. And that's when he got really, really mad. And he started screaming at me on the phone. What? Screaming at me on the phone. And I was like, I had to remain calm because like getting mad at him wasn't going to do anything, right? He was like, I don't know who you think you are, girl. He was like, I don't know who you think you are. He was like, but that's not it at all, okay? Yeah. I'm a police officer.
Clearly
he was like, I'm a police officer. I don't use my politics for my job. And I'm just listening to this, and I said to him, I said, we're not going to stop this event.
Listen, 99, and I say this all the time, 99% of the interactions that I've had with police have been negative. I think since I moved out of New York, I've had generally pleasant experiences with them, especially when they're off the job. They're almost completely different. But no one forces them to do this job. They choose to do this job by themselves because they feel some sort of, duty to either their county or their state, whatever it is. But I'm just like, I've never understood the level of arrogance that they meet people with all the time. I get that it's a tough job. I get that it's stressful. But like, I remember I had a neighbor of ours at my parents' house. This is before I moved out here. My mom like knocked on their house. I forget what it was to do something. I think it was something about like just they had like general contracting work being done, and like the contractors were kind of like leaving the yard super messy, and it just kind of like traveled over to her yard. So she just knocked on the door wanting to talk to somebody. So like 2 days later, an unmarked envelope was in their mailbox. It had a picture of my mom knocking on the door and said, "Do this again, bitch, and see what happens," written underneath it. Jeez. So like someone took a picture of my mom from probably their car, like sitting. So we called the police, and the police came over and they said, "There's nothing we can do."
Yeah.
But just like that, nothing we can do. And I was like, "What do you mean nothing we can do? You can't find out who owns the house, who's maybe renting the house out, investigate it, talk to somebody? This is a clear threat of violence." They're like, "Yeah, there's nothing we can do." And I was like, "Well, let me tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go buy," this is while living on Long Island. I was like, "I'm going to go buy a shotgun. If I see anyone approach my mother that I don't know, they're getting got. And then I'm going to have to call you people, and you're going to have to deal with me because we tried to address this, and they said there's nothing that you can do. You guys are the most overpaid cops in the country, Nassau County Police, some of the most overpaid cops, and you arrive at this family's house who's just been violently threatened, and then you just apathetic, like we're wasting your time."
Yeah.
I'm not saying this is obviously like all police officers, but generally this is the type of attitude that I've been met with.
But you're right. This is not all police officers, but these are the majority of the stories that I hear from people.
And it's what turns me off, honestly.
Same.
Like, listen, I respect police when they're doing a good job, when they're upholding the Constitution, but when they're like when they're totally throwing that out of the way to either meet quotas or just comply with unconstitutional mayors, governors, whatever, that's when I lose my respect.
And this is when it also pisses me off when people will say online, they'll come and be like, "They're just doing their job, okay? They're just doing what their superiors tell them." And I'm like, that's the That's the most pussy
And
answer I've ever
those
heard.
are the same people that have thin blue line flags that don't understand. These are the same people who, if any gun laws are enacted when they're going to be taking away your guns, those are going to be the guys that you're advocating for, that you care about so much. Those are going to be the guys who are going to be complying with those new laws that will knock on your door, try to take away your guns, and if you don't give them up, they're going to shoot you.
And look
See,
what's
Mark,
happening
but-
in Ottawa.
That is what's happening in Ottawa. But I also want to say that I am still supportive of the police.
Are you somewhat optimistic of what?
Yeah, because at the
what
end
can
of the
be.
day, if you think about it, if we take away the police, who always is the most impacted by that? The inner
no,
city
I'm not Michael Malice,
minority
like, I get that.
families. And so that's what it is for me. It's like we can sit here all day and complain about how the police are corrupt and how we need to reform them in some way, shape, or form. And I do agree with that. But at the end of the day, we don't live in a utopia where we can get rid of police and everyone can just free reign shoot each other.
100%,
I wish
yeah.
we did, but it's like I agree with criticism of the police for sure. And when police officers in New York and Washington, for example, specifically, because I feel like they have some of the most politically charged and motivated police officers. The police officers in Texas are not like that.
Actually, it's
They're
what
not.
Gavin McInnes says all the time. He says, "Fuck the police," his boss. So he's
Exactly. That's what
he's-
I'm
yeah,
saying. So it's like not all police are bad. Like some people genuinely do want to help their communities.
It's the administrators, like everything else in large
Yeah, so
organizations.
I'm not going to just sit here and bash on the police. Like I do still support them. I know a lot of people who were police officers formerly or who police officers now who say I would never enforce the mask mandate and I never have.
Right.
Yeah, I have two cousins who are police officers. One in Bakersfield, California, which has the highest homicide rate in the entire state. And then one, I think, on Long Island, actually. I don't know exactly where. But, and look, of course, at the end of the day, we should support the police because my cousin he literally felt a bullet whizzed across the top of his head. I
Yeah.
mean, they really do face danger, and I get that. And I do get that in many places they feel and are underpaid and undervalued. But, I mean, at the end of the day, I think what it is the arrogant attitude. It's the arrogant
and
attitude.
what we're saying is anecdotal, but it strikes a nerve because when you see it happen over and over again, like Savanah was saying, like it happened in DC, it happened in Austin. She's like, it obviously makes sense why we would feel this way. But like you said, it's not a utopia.
And I think that attitude stems from a bigger issue, which again is like Democrats coming in, George Soros paying for all of these district attorneys who are continuously letting these
Oh, yeah, look
criminals
at
out.
LA, yeah,
It's like a
Jesus.
bigger issue than just like the police having a bad attitude. It's like the police being demonized for years, being defunded, being told that they can't go and enact their job, that if they go and arrest a black man, are they going to have their lives ruined for the rest of their lives for doing their job, which again, in that case might be something as simple as pulling somebody over for a speeding ticket.
Right.
So I feel like the reason why the police have this type of attitude, like we need to understand that it's a bigger issue outside of just the cops being assholes. You know what I mean?
100%. Let's before we talk about Ottawa, let's
Yeah.
get some questions in because people have asked.
Oh,
a
did you
bunch
get
of
some
Oh, yeah,
questions?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
great.
Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
I'm gonna read them and then I'll be the arbiter of should I read this or not. So
Okay,
unless
perfect.
you're like read anything, whatever. So Tom Barker wants to know what was the worst thing / adjustment taken about with your prior employer.
Wait, repeat
Wait,
that?
what?
It's. Do you want to just look at it? It's the first one,
Yeah. Okay, let me read this.
and then read it out loud.
Didn't really.
what
I
was
don't-
the worst thing taken about
I guess he wants to know maybe about InfoWars. Like, what was the worst thing / did you have to make any adjustments going from InfoWars to Blaze? Maybe, I don't know.
I know, but also one story. I'm answering for Sav. One story about Alex Jones that I'll never ever forget. That Sav told me. The producers like did something wrong with like cutting to commercials or something, and he got so mad he took a pair of scissors.
No, don't repeat the story. don't repeat the story because if Alex sees it, he'll get mad. Alex is amazing. Do not repeat that story.
But Savannah also said once that if Alex is in the building, you can just like expect the door's gonna be ripped off its hinges.
He's a very powerful presence. He's like the Kool-Aid man. He just like barges
I
in.
want to just
everywhere.
hug him.
Really? Okay.
He's
okay.
no, he's great. He's great.
Next question from the same Oh, Jesus. This person has asked you 5, 6, 7.
This is an ultra fan of Sav.
Oh,
Did they propose to her too?
All these questions are from this. Look at this. I'm not even joking.
Yeah, he has asked a
Do you
lot
do you
of
know who
questions.
this is?
I don't know who that is.
Okay, all right. Let me. Oh my God, we're just gonna go through. Okay, how should American oil companies counter economic threats brought on by fiscal policies? Do you want to get into that, or just say skip? We'll just skip.
Yeah, we can skip. I mean, yeah,
I'm
I'm not necessarily an economist, so economist.
Economist.
I said that so weird.
Here's something interesting. What is the tipping point between third wave Marxists and genuine civil liberties?
These are such in-depth questions.
Yeah,
here.
they're very. We would need more time. Let's go. Was ACB Kavanaugh Gorsuch right for the court or just a head FISA leader pawn?
In regards to Kavanaugh, I have not followed politics for long enough to fully study the Supreme Court, but what I've seen from them, specifically conservative Supreme Court picks, I've been very disappointed with. We saw that Kavanaugh didn't rule that nurses should be exempt from the vaccine mandates and stuff like that. So I think that a lot of our justices and the Supreme Court as a whole is not doing a great job in translating our Constitution in the way that they should be and standing up for the people. And definitely a topic I need to do more research into.
Gina, I'm not kidding. These are all from the same guy.
Why are there so many questions?
Not. Did you see how many there were?
Yeah,
there
I
are more
did.
questions, but this is
Why is this happening?
Barker, I'm almost scared to engage Tom Barker and be like, "Hey, Tom, what's your deal? Like, you really like stuff." Let's see. I mean, this is oh my God. Here's one. When you wake up, what motivates your show content generation? What motivates you to make content?
What motivates me to make content is the fact that there are seldom few people covering it, really. So, for example, the vaccine is such a hot topic that everybody should be covering every single day because there's more and more coming out about it. But for some reason, there are seldom few people in the industry who will cover it because they fear censorship.
Yeah.
So what motivates my coverage is just focusing in on the stories that are important, that aren't going covered by the mainstream media, the voices that are being underrepresented. That's constantly what I'm looking at. I also really enjoy covering a barrage of issues, whether it's international news or here at home, because a lot of people too, especially the America Firsters, are like, oh, let's focus in at home. But it is important for us to look at foreign countries as an example for what will come here to America if we do not stand our ground on our rights and our freedoms and continue to utilize our freedom of speech. So it's really just a passion to uncover the truth, because we all know that the media is allowed to dictate what narrative and basically which reality we're living.
And they're always trying to distract us with something.
Exactly. AKA Ukraine right now, when Canada is in full dictatorship mode.
Exactly.
Ukraine is not weak. This is from Tom Barker. Is holding USA public office in order for your future? Is he American or English? Do you plan on ever holding office or running for office?
As of now, no. I think there's so much more that I need to learn. And I think the biggest issue with people running for office is that they don't have enough real world experience. AOC right now talking about how businesses should be run and talking about how tax cuts should be taken away from millionaires and people providing jobs for our country, because she's never run a business before.
If she ever ran a business or started a business, that would make a little bit of sense, but she never has.
That's what I'm saying. So it's like, why are we allowing people in Congress who have not really and truly experienced what it's like to be an average American citizen? So for me, it's like I'm not thinking about running for office at all until I have done my civil duty as an American to uplift the voices of my fellow Americans who are actually living through this and going out on the streets and truly understanding the plight of my fellow citizens.
It's a very interesting thing that a lot of people who I guess follow content creators always kind of expect them to want to run for office just because they're either like really well read or well versed. But I mean, it's just probably something that
I also think, I mean, this is, I don't know if I'm in the minority thinking this, but I think running for Congress is like, you can do so many more influential things. Like,
we'll talk to Robbie about it and we'll ask him, what
I think some people,
I
think that some people are called to be in office. Like Robbie is somebody that I think should be in office, but I think that most people who consume content and who listen to a lot of political commentators, they overestimate how much power people in Congress have, and they overestimate how much influence they have. So they think that if someone is influential online, they think that the natural next step is to run for office, when I mean, in 9 cases out of 10, that's the wrong direction for people to go.
Totally.
I completely agree. I think it's more effective for us to be inspiring our fellow man to take off their face masks right now, right? Like just going out on the streets of America and inspiring your fellow man and talking with them, as opposed to
also
being an elected official.
It really points to people's complete misunderstanding of the difference and I guess the influence too of politics versus culture, because right now, to make the biggest influence in our country, you need to be cultural. Yeah. Because who are the kids listening to? They're not listening. They're not listening to people in Congress. They're not even listening to the president. They're listening to Billie Eilish and the Kardashians and Kanye. Those are the biggest influencers now. Those are the people who are raising kids. So if we really want to influence people, I don't think that Congress is the answer.
And it sucks when like you find someone who you think is quote unquote cool who is in the Congress, someone like Dan Crenshaw, and then you find out who he really is. Yeah, it's kind of a bummer. That dude sucks.
Sucks.
Someone wants to know why do you shill anti-China CIA talking points?
Anti-China?
What?
CIA. Oh, that's John. Okay, so John keeps asking me, when am I going to be on Rapid Fire, Sav? Never, John. He says that me being anti-China is the wrong move and that the CIA funded the pro-democracy protest in Hong Kong, which I'm like, okay, I'm interested. I'm very open-minded. I'm very curious. I'm never going to discount anything.
Yeah, especially from the CIA.
But I was there on the ground and I talked to the people and they didn't seem like feds. They seemed like they were scared of the communist Chinese. They were like, yeah, my uncle got disappeared because he read the wrong book and please don't film my face. I'm living in fear. Yeah. Please, Donald Trump, help me.
Don't trust China. Jason _3_3_4 has asked me to tell you that he basically submitted this. He said, tell her she has cute bunny rabbit teeth.
Thank you.
And then he said, thank you. It's a real question. I'm not making up.
All right. I'll take it.
Teeth. I've never thought about that.
Gosh.
_Tony, which I think we've answered a question of hers before. Which do you need more recovery time from? The insanity on Slightly Offensive or street conversations?
Slightly Offensive for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Having to sit down and watch TikToks. I hate TikToks. I don't watch TikToks willingly. The TikToks are a lot for me. I hate them so much.
We just got into the TikTok game and it is like,
I think we're about to hit 10,000 followers.
I'll take a look.
Today. Yeah. Do a live update of that. But I also think we're going to get that account taken down pretty soon.
For sure.
Yeah. So many times I'm like, how about I just take a break from politics and learn some stupid synchronized TikTok dance and, make money that way. And I'm just kidding.
Just bounce. Do that. I mean, you could probably make a little
we're
bit of money.
9,489.
Nice. Follow us on TikTok. And most of the time you're talking to me. This is actually a good question. What was the biggest lie you ever believed, and what was the truth that shattered it? That's from Ojas Medriata, who's a fan of ours.
Ooh, that is, I wish I had gotten these questions before so I could really think, but on the spot, like, y'all are going to hate me for this, but the first thing that popped in my head was 9/11.
I don't hate you for that. Based.
Do tell.
I'm
with you on this one.
Saying that the narrative surrounding 9/11 was weird.
So the lie that you would have believed was this was an attack from Al Qaeda.
Yeah, I don't think that we were told the truth about 9/11. Mm-hmm. And I think that the government covered up a lot of things.
Yes.
I think that the Patriot Act, which was introduced and now being weaponized against the American citizens, is interesting. I think that Donald Trump talking about how there were bombs going off that day was interesting. I think the fact that the media reported that Building 7 fell before it did was interesting.
That part of that whole thing is the most confusing thing. Why did that building go down?
That up.
It looked like
the way
timed demolition.
The controlled demolition of that building was interesting.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so I'm like, you know what? I hate to say it, but it's like I'm being put on the spot. That's the first thing I can think of is I'm like, Bush did 9/11.
Don't add up.
It don't add up, son. It doesn't add up. I want answers. The government is lying to you. They don't care about your health. They don't care about your safety. Did Bush do 9/11? We'll never know.
Jeez, you guys are obvious. You guys are sisters.
Yeah.
Sister from
you have very similar personalities. You basically answered this at the beginning of the show. How did you get involved in political commentary? But I read this because they said, love your content, Sav. That's from Kath Sauer _. And I can't get it. Do you want one more Tom Barker question? I mean, I could.
Sure. He sent in 100.
Unless it's John Doyle under using a fake account.
He wants to marry me so bad.
Well, I'll go
look at the sign there.
Please don't look at the sign.
We can't.
I hate you.
My conspiracy theory hat off again.
Okay, well, we can go. Who's the most attractive male conservative media host? Elijah Schaffer is not an answer.
I know what she's going to say to this one.
Yeah, Gino, who am I going to say?
Well, actually, there are two options in my head.
I have to be up there as far as like the newcomer, right? Like I've got to be up there.
As the rookie. You're rookie of the year. You're rookie of the year.
Thanks,
I know
okay.
she's got two people in her head. One of them is the real answer in her head, but she's not going to say it. But the second one,
Can
she'll
I
say.
guess?
You know.
I know
Wait,
exactly
hold on,
who she's talking
okay, well,
about.
let me
We're
guess.
talking
Okay,
about.
so are they and you can give me yes or no answers. Are they hosts of shows?
One is. Another one is. I guess he'd be like
Are any
a
of
social
these
media.
Gina knows
are any
me
of these
so well.
ironic?
No.
No,
Okay,
not ironic.
they're purely based on physical attractiveness.
Yeah. It's
Okay.
not like.
So I'm not gonna be like
it's not
Tucker's
like-
one of them.
Right.
Okay. God, but like if they have shows,
Gina,
I'm trying to
you
think
know,
like who has
Gina's
shows.
gonna answer for me.
Yeah. I mean, I'll answer.
answer the second one.
I'll answer the second one.
The second one.
One's not. It's not Charlie Kirk.
Klug.
Damn
Oh,
it.
James Clue. Okay, yeah.
Will Witt. Gina, you were supposed to set up our wedding. There's there's so many people I have
no,
to
but
get
that's
married to,
right.
guys.
Yeah, no, but I
Would
saw
it work
Will.
between Will and Sav or no?
No, I mean, I saw Will last weekend, and he seems really happy with his new girl, and I could see it in his eyes, and so I let that go.
That's
Bummer.
beautiful.
And plus,
I did
look
too.
what I wrote
I
up
did
there.
too. Never.
Well, okay, so
Would
if
never
it
happen.
wasn't James Clue, so who's the other one?
Oh, I can't say that one.
Yeah, that one.
I'm not allowed to say that one.
No.
No.
Yeah.
Can you?
I guess
whisper-
we'll never
can you
know.
whisper it into my ear?
No, because
The mic
he's
won't
gonna
pick it
like
up.
hold the mic up to it.
No. The mic's not.
No, we'll tell you
I'm
later.
just gonna be like your dad.
This is bullshit. No, honestly, like
It's your
fucking
daddy.
bullshit. Like we're filming a show. Like this is what I want to cut to the camera where that she sees like. me
Sorry,
do
Mike.
fucking
You wanted to
anything.
beef with me, and now you don't get to know the super secret answer.
Only
You made your
I
own bed,
know.
and now you have
Listen,
to
Tom
lay in
Barker,
it.
we appreciate this. You've got some enthusiasm. I think we're probably done with your questions. I'll show them to Sav later, so if she wants to answer them
I
privately,
will read
she
through
can do
all
that.
50 of them.
Well, hold on. I'm going to live count them. 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16,
can we do
18,
just, like, an
20,
entire
22,
episode on
24,
conspiracy theories?
26, 28,
We should. Dude, TWA Flight
30,
800
32, 34,
got
36,
shot down
38,
by a missile, and like
40,
700
42.
people were like, yeah, a missile shot it down.
He
they were like,
asked
no.
50 questions.
50?
Like, yes,
You're not
literally 50.
exaggerating.
No, on the dot.
Is he okay?
I think he's fine. I think he just really likes
He
Sav
really
and he
likes
wants to
Sav.
know
You
things.
know what? We'll take
well,
it.
there were questions about local Austin stuff. You know,
Aw.
what is the best place to go to this? But I didn't want to inundate the show with just questions for Sav.
Smart.
Right.
Did you want to talk about Ottawa,
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about Ottawa. Because
or did
we
you
were-
want to? Did you want to address any other topics? Maybe anything saucy? Not
There's-
that, but I'm just saying.
Yeah,
like, is
yeah.
there anything that you want to talk about that you haven't talked about that you can now talk about on this show?
Yeah.
I mean, I talk about everything because, you know,
She talks about everything everywhere.
I don't give a damn. I've already been censored, so it's just like, let's go. Let's talk about
Okay.
everything and anything. Ottawa, yeah, that's a very important one. We need to get into it.
We were talking about it last night because we were watching some of the footage at my house.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, if you follow me on Instagram, you know I say this almost every day. Justin Trudeau is Fidel Castro's son. That is,
Yeah, let's actually
that's-
talk about that.
That's not a conspiracy theory. I'm not joking. People think it's like ha 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 Castro Jr. No, it's
Someone
not.
was like,
It's-
we need to see a DNA test. It'd be the only way to confirm that.
yeah, because the side by side photos aren't enough, and it is on the record that his mom was probably still is a swinger. We know.
Trudeau's mom's kind of fit.
Does she have a thing?
But she was.
She was. Yeah, she
Yeah.
was cute. I mean, you know. Yeah,
Trudeau's not a bad looking guy. I hate him, but he's not a bad looking guy.
I know. Yeah,
Think
I
about
mean,
it.
that's the thing. Well, his
That's why he's so good at being a tyrant, because he's pretty. And so
same
the libs
with
are
same
like,
with
"Oh,
Obama. Obama was like a good looking dude and like
charismatic.
charismatic.
I'm sorry. I can't take that every time I hear. He's so charismatic and well spoken. No.
No, but I'm saying to women.
Yeah.
Oh, to women.
To
oh,
women,
that's right. I
yeah,
always
to
forget
women
about
and
that.
gay
About
dudes.
that.
I'm not. We're not joking. Seriously, yeah. Women.
Do you
will,
rank him high as far as American presidents, as far as suaveness?
If I'm being objective, if I'm putting aside my hatred for him, yeah.
Obama
I mean,
was good because he injected himself into the culture. He was shooting hoops with NBA players.
exactly.
He injected himself
he
into
understood
the culture.
culture in a way that, I mean, Trump did too, but he understood culture in a way that really, really propelled him forward.
I guess it was harder for Coolidge to do something like that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And what are you going to do, the Charleston with a bunch of people? Like, I don't understand. Anyway, but yeah, Ottawa.
So yeah, Justin Trudeau is Castro's son. We also know that Trudeau, I don't know his dad's first name, or I mean like his supposed dad's first name. We know that he never fathered any children before he married. What's his mom's name? I forgot her name. The swinger. Before he married her, we know that he fathered no children. We know that the both of them were sleeping around a lot. Kim Cattrall, Samantha from Sex and the City, yeah, she admitted to sleeping with with Justin Trudeau's so-called dad. I mean, they were swingers. They were always sleeping around. And it's recorded that as they were on their honeymoon, they went to an unidentified island near Cuba, and they specifically the family asked like the press and people to not inquire them where they were going over those couple of days. And they went there, and then boom, 9 months later, Justin popped out.
Do you understand a little bit of the Trudeau family history? Were they political before Justin Trudeau? Were they wealthy people in Canada?
I don't know too
much
about that.
Influence they
I don't know too much about that, but I do know about Castro. I mean, Castro, and people probably already know this, but he would have minimum 2 different women a day. He would sleep with 2 different women a day minimum. Castro had a very, very real goal of spreading his seed and procreating and creating a lot of,
just like Jeffrey Epstein. Remember his ranch where he was trying to get a bunch of women pregnant?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because when you're a person in power or when you're a sicko, either one, you want to spread your seed and create a lot of offspring that are going to continue your legacy, and that's exactly what Justin Trudeau is doing. And
doesn't look anything like his father.
Like
anything.
Nothing, right? Looks
Pierre
nothing
Trudeau,
like
so
Trudeau.
Pierre
Pierre,
Trudeau,
that's his
his
name.
father, served as prime minister twice between 1968 to 1984.
Yeah, he looks nothing like him. He's the spitting image of Fidel Castro.
I Googled Fidel Castro earlier today before this show, and I thought it was Justin Trudeau. That's not a joke.
Yeah, see? And this is why I'm not kidding when I say that what Justin Trudeau is doing in Canada right now is he is carrying out his father's, Fidel Castro's, tyrannical legacy in any way he can. And that's exactly what we're seeing in Ottawa right now.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking. A woman got trampled by the horses, the police horses up there in Canada. And the police right now too, because they're utilizing their Ottawa Police Department verified Twitter account to continue to combat the misinformation being told by the protesters, which is basically them telling the truth. Like, hey, the police are coming in and beating our ass, please help. And the police are like, that's not happening. That's not happening. So it's like if we didn't have independent media on the ground, Rebel News, all of these various Canadians live streaming on the ground, we would never even know that this was happening, because we know that CBC is Canada's basically like CNN, government funded. Rebel News is one of the only like non-government funded media outlets in Canada, which is why we hear the truth from them. And it's just disgusting to see what's happening. The Biden administration, do not forget this, said that Canada should use federal powers to quell the Canadian Freedom Convoy.
That's the Emergencies Act.
Yeah, and that's why they have us all so focused in on Ukraine right now, because the Biden regime supports what's going on in Canada right now, and everybody in America needs to be very aware of that and understand what will happen if we have our own Freedom Convoy.
Yes, yeah. And the Freedom Convoy is now, it's become contagious. Paris, the Paris police have said they're going to block out all the Freedom Convoy motorists, and there's a fine, you can, what's the currency in France? Is it the
euros?
Is it the euro? You can be fined up to 2,000 euro if you make your way into Paris, and you can even be jailed for up to 2 days. So, I mean, the Freedom Convoy is starting to spread around the world. I keep hearing that.
What are they going to do? How are they going to give out that many like summonses or tickets?
Yeah, exactly.
People
so, I
aren't
mean,
just
they
gonna pay
should just go.
Well, see, and this is the biggest thing that I wish people would understand. It's that there's power in the people. And if everybody in Canada right now still continue to stand up, and if Americans all around our nation would stand up and push back against the police that are abusing their power, we would be able to take these things back. Why do you think even in Canada they are ending a lot of those mandates? Not all of them, but some of them, because the people were angry and they're getting arrested right now. And like I said, I was telling Gina this earlier, the concept of freedom isn't free is lost on a lot of people, because Jordan Peterson, of all people, has actually come out and said that the truckers should go
Have you seen this, Mike? I just saw it today. I hadn't seen it.
What?
Tell him, Sav.
So his exact quote here, because I want to make
what
sure
did he
that
say?
I'm getting this correct here. He put out a response
You
to
can pull up
the
video.
truckers.
You can pull up the video. Yeah, it's short. It's 2 minutes, and then he wrote a lot of what he said in the caption of the YouTube video, and
It's
it was
a YouTube video. So what should I Google? Should I
Just go to Jordan Peterson's YouTube and you'll find it. But basically, he talks about an extreme goal. He says that rational people are going to go home at this point, but there's going to be extras who stay there to try to achieve their extreme goal. He also said, I hope that you're all able to allow a sufficient victory to be sufficient to move forward without greed.
without greed. Like, what?
And sufficient, it's like, this is sufficient freedom, truckers. This is sufficient freedom. Like that's
Is
enough.
this message to truckers? Okay, hold on
Yeah.
1 second.
And obviously, he's safe here in the U.S. You know, he's not even
he got
there.
vaccinated. So of course he's not having to deal with any of these mandates or any of this nonsense.
Sorry.
Is that an
After-
ad?
Yeah.
I've been asked to say a few words to the truckers in Ottawa.
By who? By whom?
A good question.
And so I've given that some careful consideration. All you protesters, you've accomplished an awful lot already. You know, the Conservative leadership has crumbled, and Aaron O'Toole is being replaced by someone who is giving a fair bit of voice to your concerns. You now have a voice in the House of Commons. All the people you represent have a voice in the House of Commons. You have 4 provinces that have moved quite precipitously in the direction that the protest was hoping for, starting to lift mask mandates on something approximating as reasonable a timeline as might be expected under the circumstances. You're now faced with the difficult.
He's reading something.
Yeah, and the thing that's interesting about Jordan Peterson too is that he is very eloquent with his words, and he's very good at saying exactly like "go home, truckers," but saying it in a very like intellectual way that makes it sound like, oh, it's a good thing, like I agree with you. And it's like, freedom is freedom, bro. Like, why are you not telling the truckers
choice, which is
to stay?
what are your criteria for satisfaction? You need to determine that, and so that you can negotiate with the necessary people. You're also faced with a danger at the moment now, which is that as the political process bends in the direction that you've insisted upon, so rightly, in my estimation, more and more of you who are most reasonable are going to pack up and leave, or decide that this is done sometime over the next week or so, or a couple of weeks. That's obviously up to you. But there'll be a remnant that's much more committed in some sense to more extreme goals, and that's going to be something very difficult to manage. I'd like to commend all of you for your diligence and work on accomplishing what you have accomplished under trying conditions, and also for keeping your heads in a way that's actually been a model for the entire world. The fact that you've been able to remain peaceful, you haven't taken the bait, you haven't responded with violence to quite remarkable denigration and provocation, that's a sign of tremendous discipline and care. It's going to get more difficult to maintain as this goes along. So I hope that you're all in this position to allow a sufficient victory to be sufficient, to move forward without rancor, to be grateful for the effect that you've already had and the support that you've received, and to move forward to a normative peace and the reestablishment of our country's economy and our psychological and social well-being.
I wonder the
So,
motivation
That's pretty
behind
much all I have to say at this point.
telling him to do that. I want to know who's behind that. That's what I want to know. He did. I don't think he did that on his own.
I mean, he is one of the most outspoken Canadians in the political world, so I would have expected a response from him. But like I said, this is a very
like that?
weak response. It's
Yeah, that's
so weak.
someone has influenced the decision for him to make that video.
I think it's just, I think he's just very Canadian. That is a very,
Mm-hmm.
very Canadian type of response. An American, a true American would not say that.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah,
oh, do you
so-
want me to read this short article about the Trudeaus and the conspiracy?
Oh, yeah.
Because it sounds like it is a disinformation piece. Like it sounds like they're saying like, no, don't look into this. This is totally debunked. Don't look into this. I'm going to read this. I'll throw the link in. Debunked. Justin Trudeau is Fidel Castro's son. Are the rumors and conspiracy theories really true? Doe. Oh, that's funny. Last month, I stumbled upon an article discussing the theory that Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is the illegitimate son of Cuban dictator Fidel Castro. The article is a fascinating look into how the written word can be used to twist facts for the purposes of clickbait. I guess I played my hand a bit early with that last sentence because when you take a step back from its narrative of political romance, this conspiracy theory sounds more and more like, well, a conspiracy theory. Then they put the images of them side by side and they look exactly alike. The article sets the scene by discussing the promiscuity of Pierre Trudeau and his wife Margaret in excruciating detail, a sentence I am both amused and ashamed to have just typed. It aggressively asserts that, quote, it is a fact the Trudeaus were in the Caribbean in the spring of 1971. It is a fact they adored Castro. It is a fact the Trudeaus were swingers. And that's unquote. Examine how this information is presented. We are first given a legitimate fact the Trudeaus were in the Caribbean in the spring of 71. The next claim is more subjective. The Trudeaus adored Castro. They certainly had good relations, at least in comparison to the United States at the time. However, to say that they adored Castro is not only a stretch, but a purposefully deceitful choice of language. Finally, we are presented with the fact that the Trudeaus were swingers. While it is true that Margaret did have an affair with Ted Kennedy, oh Jesus, After all, nothing bad ever happens to the Kennedys. Well, she's lucky she got out of there alive. Calling them swingers in this context is a purposeful misnomer. During the height of his popularity in the late 60s, Pierre was described as a fresh, handsome, and hip politician, not unlike his son. At the time, swinger was not a term for promiscuity, but rather a term to describe someone new and cool. No, I think both of the definitions were probably accurate. Mm-hmm. Swingers were swingers, baby. The swinging 60s, a time of great cultural revolution. A CBC broadcast from 1968 even has children calling Pierre as a swinger as a compliment. Ooh, that's not good. Also, this is, I think... Okay, so is this Trudeau's mom, Castro, and a baby? Or is this just Castro holding a baby?
No, that's Justin. I know a photo. That's Justin.
Oh, okay.
So that's Fidel with his son.
That's Fidel with his son. And look at the way that she's looking at him. That is the gaze of a mother lovingly watching the father of her son hold their baby.
Swinging aside, let's look at the details. The theory hinges on the fact that, as previously mentioned, the Trudeaus went on the Caribbean honeymoon around the 13th of April, 1971. They visited many islands from Trinidad to Barbados. Yet, as this news clipping from the Ottawa Journal states, quote, they left on a quick side trip to an unidentified island. The local press was asked to respect the newlyweds for desired for privacy, unquote. Justin was born 8.5 months later on Christmas Day. This is the only concrete evidence of Castro potentially being Justin's father. Yeah, and the fact that they look almost identical, that's two pretty good pieces of evidence.
They are identical.
Yeah, just overlook that fact.
Yeah, I mean, I still haven't seen...
It was just a coincidence.
Look away. This photo, it might have been, Photoshopped. We don't know.
Okay, so yeah, this article seems like a disinformation piece. I encourage everybody to look it up. It's on a website called spiritlive.ca. Here, what was the question that I asked you about? What was something that was given to you as a truth and you believed it and you later were awakened by it? For me, I think it's the moon landing. I don't think that ever happened either.
Interesting.
Someone posted a meme where it was like a picture of the moon lander, which is, it looks like it's made of aluminum foil, cardboard, and someone's like, you mean to tell me this piece of shit got to the moon and back?
And have we've been back to the moon since?
A couple times, but they never really talked about it.
Okay.
There were a bunch of Apollo missions after that.
Well, I mean, and if you think about too that we were in a space race with Russia, it was kind of like whoever can get
there.
Yeah,
but there are a couple things that are really, really weird. One is why is the flag waving in space? Space is a vacuum. There should be none of that. The other one is I think something that has to do with the camera and shadows.
I've heard
like
that one.
Yeah.
No, see, that's what I'm saying is that's why I also think that could potentially be true is because we were in a space race with Russia.
Right. Exactly.
So they were like, oh my
gosh. Put the propaganda out.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not a flat earther. Like I've said before, I don't know enough about...
it's an interesting concept.
I don't
interesting.
get how the Earth
There was this
could be
YouTube
flat.
video...
I want to hear more.
Do you guys follow or you subscribe to the YouTube channel Jubilee? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love. They did flat earthers versus scientists.
Flat earthers are actually really convincing.
They kind of are. And I don't know.
Should I watch that?
Yes, 100%. So one of the guys says, listen, let's talk about the famous picture of the marble, I think, that was taken in the 70s or whatever it was. And one of the scientists was like, I know exactly what you're about to talk about. He's like that photo has been manipulated so many times. It's not just one photo. They used a bunch of photos to stitch together what they think the Earth looks like from a bunch of different photos. That's why it looks spherical. And the scientist was like, well, listen, we use a bunch of photo stitching technology. We also use a bunch of models and stuff to tell us what things would look like. And I'm just like, oh, yeah, they don't know. They're also putting together models. They're putting together a bunch of different pictures to
My
present us.
favorite one is, okay, so if the Earth was flat, right, it would be surrounded by the ice shelf.
Yeah.
Like that on all corners or all sides or whatever, all
Right.
sides. And so my
they
favorite...
say dome, right?
Right.
Like that's the whole thing.
My
Yeah.
favorite part of that conspiracy is how all of the countries in the world have simultaneously agreed like not to go into Antarctica.
Really? But
Yeah.
aren't there
Wait, they've
bases
agreed
there?
what?
I thought that they did. There was like something that flat earthers say how like all of the countries agreed not to go into Antarctica or something because then it would prove that the ice shelf is real or something like that.
Yeah, I don't. The whole thing
There's
is
a
sort of,
bunch of
it goes
stuff.
over my head just because there's a lot of science involved that I don't understand, and they talk a lot about perspective and they talk a lot about gravity because
They talk about math, and I'm just like,
because
you lost me.
it makes sense if you think about it. If the Earth is a sphere and it's just floating through space, and there's oceans on the top and the bottom of it, how do they get the water to like not fall off of it? I get it. It's gravity. It's the gravitational force, and you know, I don't get it, but it kind of makes sense. Because I posed a question. I was like,
What's
listen.
on the bottom of the dome?
Well, yeah, but I've also said, listen, if the Earth's the force of gravity is basically pulling us to the center of the earth, right? When you throw a ball up in the air, that's gravity pulling that ball down. Okay. What makes it so that a fly can take off, but that when we jump, up, we're not floating or whatever, if the gravitational force is so strong to keep us here, but it can allow a fly. And then people will just be like, well, that's just math. But I'm like, well, what's the difference? What does it matter if something weighs differently? Like if the gravitational force is so strong that to keep us on the surface but not flies, like something's up. I don't get it. Maybe I'm an idiot. Like I said, I'm not a physicist. I don't understand these things. I think gravity's made up and space is gay. So I don't understand. Like all math and science is just a language to explain things. Like we don't know. I hate it when people talk about the Big Bang. We know to the millisecond when the universe started. No, you don't. Our brains aren't developed enough to understand time and to understand that sort of stuff. So I think you just make up science. You just make up math to try to explain it.
Dude, have you heard of the hollow Earth theory?
I have heard of that.
What?
That one's kind of crazy. So
is
this
that the one
pilot,
that's just like just a bunch of caves or something, or?
It's the concept that there's like a whole entire other Earth inside of our Earth, and the Earth is hollow. And the reason I found that one is because this pilot apparently, he was flying in like, I don't know, some North Pole or South Pole type area. He goes through this cave and he's in this entirely different world, and he's like, what the hell? It flies back out. And he's still like in the North Pole or wherever he was flying. He tells this story, and it's just kind of crazy because there's so many pilots who tell like weird stories.
Things that they see,
yeah, about like going
Bermuda
through these
Triangle.
portals or
Yeah.
stuff like that. And I'm like, interesting.
Every time I start talking about flat Earth or anything like that, or anything scientific, especially when it has to do with time or space, half of me is like, oh God, people are going to think I'm so stupid. And then the other half of me is like, no, there are people out there that are probably saying to themselves, keep going. You're onto it. Keep going.
And I mean, think about the mentality though too of the masses. It's like the masses believe whatever the government tells them to believe. And the government is the one telling us that the earth is round. So
why do we automatically think the government is smarter than us?
On the actual basis that the government lies to us all the time. I'm a flat earther.
Yeah, they tell you to eat seed oils and grains, and they tell you to eat less meat and fewer eggs.
Just like
because
any
they
foreign
really care
coup,
about your health.
Any foreign coup that was started by the CIA, you believe that, but then when they say no, feds would never be involved in January 6th, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Like, yes, Operation Northwoods did happen, and we did try to stage terroristic events to invade Cuba. That was the CIA, but we would never do that in the modern day, guys.
Right? No, it makes sense. I don't trust them for anything.
We would never do false flags. The government would never.
We would never.
Okay, listen, it's not going to get us kicked off of YouTube, and I'm going to approach this very delicately. But one of the things that I've always been fascinated about is crisis actors. I've never understood
I think
that.
this is so fascinating. I've never heard a good answer for it.
The one that stands out to me the most is the Sandy Hook one, where the grieving father is talking to someone on camera, but he's not addressing the press, but he's just off camera and he's laughing and he's making jokes.
And then the cameras turn on.
Yeah.
Can you pull that up?
Yeah, I could try and find this.
There's another woman who shows up at a few different of the famous school shootings and is interviewed on camera.
I've never looked into crisis actors, but I've heard all of these stories about them, and it's definitely something to look into. And okay, I think this is why censorship is so bad for us as well, is because it's like you don't know what you don't know, right? So like there's a huge subset of the population that doesn't know that the CIA has perpetuated all of these things historically against the American people. There's people who don't know about the Tuskegee Project and how the Black community was left untreated for syphilis because the government wanted to experiment on the full progress of syphilis untreated, right? And when it comes to conspiracies, we don't have any access to that information. Like think about YouTube in the early 2000s. You could look up all of these videos, and there were people as well that with Sandy Hook were already questioning it just because everything seemed so fishy. And Sandy Hook is always synonymous with Alex Jones, but what a lot of people don't know is that Alex was like looking into that because there were already people on the internet that were commenting on YouTube and interested in it because they already were suspecting that something was off with it. So it's not like he just created that out of thin air. Like people were already questioning it. Yeah,
I mean, it is a conspiracy theory to say that Alex Jones thinks that Sandy Hook is a hoax. That is a conspiracy theory because he never actually said it was a hoax. It's not actually what he said, but that's what he has become most famous for. Yeah. But that is an actual conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
Okay, can we watch this? So this is This is the video of the camera rolling before this press conference. And when you look it up initially, the guy's name is Robbie Parker. There are a bunch of videos that don't start before this. But you can still find it on YouTube.
When I went out there,
so here we go.
Parents, loved ones of slain young people wanted to remember their sons and their daughters.
That's him right there.
And as a result, they spoke and made a statement. So we'll see if Robbie Parker, I assume he's going to come out to the microphone.
That's the one holding he's the one holding the paper.
Statement. Looks like the family is there, and they're getting ready to to come to the microphone, so we'll listen up.
Okay.
Do you want me to bring that back?
Yeah, can we watch that again?
And they're getting ready to to come to the microphone, so we'll listen up.
Okay.
Yeah, that's. I don't even like saying it, but if anything like that happened to my daughter, this is the day after, right?
Yeah.
It would be advisable for no one to be near me.
Yeah.
I'm not talking to press. I'm finding out if the person who did it is still alive.
Yeah, I'd be on a rampage.
You know what I mean? Yeah. There's
I'm not kidding.
That guy's an actor. He's like literally getting into character.
Yeah.
But we're not allowed to question that because we'd get our channels taken down.
Right.
That doesn't make any sense to me. I don't understand
This
that.
is
Why can't people be open to talking about it?
By the way, this is satire.
Yeah, the government would never lie to us. The government would never stage false flags, hire crisis actors. The government would never create the food pyramid and tell you that, all of the foods that are actually going to kill you faster are good for you. They would never, ever do that to you guys.
They would never.
And the CIA was also not
started
by
this is a
Skull and
conspiracy
Bones
theory hood
members. Anyway.
But it doesn't seem unreasonable for me to say, okay, I understand the fact that kids actually died. I understand the fact that the government will use this to push gun control policies. But it also seems weird that father, quote unquote father, is laughing right before he's giving a press conference the day after his daughter was murdered. But if I say that, I'm viewed as a conspiracy theorist because that seems like a pretty rational thought process and purely objective because I'm looking at all these facts that are happening. But then I'm labeled as a conspiracy theorist or someone who has no empathy or sympathy. It doesn't make any sense. Where did we get to the point where we can't ask questions?
I still can't get over that.
I'm not equating it to the Q people because I think they're kind of funny.
The
QAnon people. Yeah,
that was an interesting movement for sure.
Yeah,
even Alex
I like
was
the guy with the horns.
No,
he's cool.
I don't think he really had anything to. Did he have anything to? The
No,
shaman? Did he have anything to do with Q? Or
I
did
don't
he
think
kind of
he
just
did.
jump along?
He didn't. It was just so funny when he walked into the chambers and he's like, "There's some fucking patriots right here. What's up, y'all?"
But that video is so funny because you hear middle-aged white women saying that it was an insurrection, and then you see that footage, and it's a guy who was shot in the face by a BB.
He's like, "I'm out here with my boys."
No, but he's like, there's a cop who follows the shaman, and he's like, "Please, guys, this is a very sacred place. Can I ask you guys to leave?" And I think the shaman or someone else is like, we will. We just want to get a look around. And then the guy's like,
sitting on the
yeah,
ground,
I've been
he's
shot in the face, but
Yes!
I'll make sure that we stay respectable and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
But and the guy's like, do you need a doctor or medic? He's like, no, I'm okay, man.
Worse than Pearl Harbor.
We can't say these things though. But if you look at the Brett Kavanaugh hearings and you saw all the Handmaid's Tale women who literally stormed that building, broke into the halls and stuff, like you can't mention that. Everybody forgets that. Did you forget it?
No, I remember
Did you
that.
forget that?
No.
That happened? I didn't forget that happened.
Yeah,
That's why
that's liberal privilege right there.
Literally, you can get away with anything.
When you're a Satanist.
White women.
Liberal.
I wish I was almost born as a white woman because then I could pretty much get away with anything.
Well, you could just be liberal and then you can get away with anything.
Yeah.
What you want to be today is black.
I don't
if you're
think
black today, you can get away with anything.
I think
get away with
liberal
murder.
straight white guys still have it pretty bad.
Liberal straight white guys.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
because I think
you guys
people
are
see through them.
apologists for everything.
People see through them.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, the white guy who's like, yeah, I'm a feminist. Definitely. Oh, yeah, Black Lives Matter for sure. People are like, nah, dude. Like, no.
Yeah, you're just trying to get in somebody's pants.
Yeah.
You're just trying to get
Which I don't
laid.
blame you. You know, if that's your game, that's your game.
Whatever.
But they're definitely not pulling
No, it's
either.
funny that my friends who are on dating apps, they send me the screenshots of the dudes who are like feminist, ally in their bio, and I'm like,
Oh, can we watch one TikTok video? I know you don't like doing this, but I don't think you had this video on Elijah's show yet. So wait, I'm gonna find this.
See.
Talk amongst yourselves.
Oh my gosh, TikTok, Sav. So we started TikTok. I think it was maybe 2 weeks ago, And
longer than that, maybe 3 weeks.
3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Okay. 3 weeks
It's
ago.
blowing up right now.
And it is like the dumbest of the dumb. The dumbest of the dumbest of the
Yeah.
dumb of the dumbest of the dumb are on that app.
Yeah.
Mike and I look at each other when we read the comments. We're like, are you guys literate? Like they cannot write. They can't write in full, complete sentences.
Here's the thing. Here's what I've started to do with TikTok. What I've started to do was if someone writes a comment and someone else has started to interact with them, leave it alone. I leave it alone.
Right.
But if someone writes a comment and I see it and it's kind of dumb and no one has interacted with it yet, then I'll interact with it.
Right.
But I mean, there is comment feed that goes on like 100 comments between the same two people. I'm like, do you guys have anything better to do?
They really don't. And I talk about this often as well, that America is such a powerful country that we can't be attacked from the outside. You have to Trojan horse us.
That's what Andrew Schultz was saying.
Attack us from within.
That's exactly what he said.
Yeah.
TikTok, Chinese app,
Yeah.
is distracting our entire generation, is brainwashing an entire generation. You look at Yuri Bezmenov, he talked about he's KGB director.
That video is so great.
Yeah, propagandist expert, and he basically talks about how to subvert an entire country, it takes about like 10 to 15 years because you have to re-educate an entire generation.
Yeah.
Look at what happened with millennials. Look at what is happening with Zoomers via TikTok. They're being indoctrinated with all this LGBTQ propaganda, this anti-American propaganda, and that's why that's how we're being destroyed from within, because we are a powerful country. And so
is this why our account will most likely get taken down?
for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Let's watch this. This is very interesting. This is a guy who I'll let you watch it from the. Can you kind of see it okay?
Yeah, I can see.
Okay. So, here we go.
I love libs of TikTok. Oh, I haven't seen this one. Yeah, I want to see it.
And brown jeans, tacuaches. Sí, I'm Mexican. I can say what's up, dude. ¿Qué pasa, güey? ¿Qué pasa, vato? You said shit. Appreciate it, bro.
Holocaust, slavery in the U.S., all these other things because it might make them uncomfortable, but let's give them guns during a class in school.
Yeah.
Let's not teach them about reproductive health and the fact that other humans are different from them, but let's give them fucking guns in school.
He's shaking.
Let's completely avoid the conversations of the absolutely horrific things that humans have done to one another to make it so that we don't fucking repeat things, but let's give them guns in school.
Yeah.
Are you out of your fucking minds? Well, it teaches them responsibility in the way around a weapon. Fuck you. This is what's fucking wrong.
That's why we need guns.
Wait,
that's exactly
hold
why
on a
we need
second.
guns.
Is this guy a troll?
No, that's real.
He's a real person?
Well, he took that video down and made like some weird response to it, but then everyone in his TikTok feed is like, why'd you delete the video? Why'd you take the video down?
Oh, so he's for real.
Oh yeah, he's definitely for real. Like those dudes are they're so unsure of themselves. They don't know what masculinity is. That guy does not have a good relationship with his father. 100%.
Yeah.
He probably doesn't know his
He probably
dad.
has a single mom.
Probably, but it's just like, did you see him shaking?
Yeah.
And he's talking about banning books. It's like, first of all, the party who's giving these kids guns to teach them about guns is definitely not banning any books. That's for sure. Unless it's like, what was the book that William F. Buckley and Gore Vidal were arguing about, that Gore Vidal wrote, and it's just about some tranny or whatever. Anyway, my friend Cody, that you know, Cody in high school was on a shooting team.
Oh, that was a thing.
Yeah, he would ride with his shotgun in the truck to school. He would bring his shotgun to school. He's from Nebraska.
Cool.
It's like there's
Nice.
a culture around this thing. You don't know that culture. You live in
You're
such a
a
tight,
coastal elite.
comfortable bubble.
That's the reason
that-
why we need the Electoral College right there.
Right, exactly. It's just
Right
like these
there.
people are criticizing something that they know absolutely nothing of. You know about guns just because who doesn't know about guns living in America? But you are unaware that there's a culture that exists that teach kids about guns at a very early age, teaches them how to be responsible. There are schools out there with shooting teams. The Olympics has fucking shooting sports. So why would this bother this guy so much? It's such like this weird, fragile
Because
masculinity.
he's some white liberal.
That is
who-
toxic. That is toxic
That
masculinity
is
right there.
toxic masculinity. Yeah, that's actually the best way to put it, is that they think toxic masculinity is like, I don't know.
What do reproductive rights have to do with
First of
teaching
all,
kids guns?
there's
I
no
don't
such
understand
thing as
it. Yeah,
reproductive
abortion
rights.
rights. Sorry.
Yeah.
But I mean, if my daughter, when she's of the appropriate age, probably around those kids' age, they look like they were 5th, 6th grade or whatever. That would be the appropriate time for me. I think some do it earlier, some do it later, to teach my daughter about these are the guns that I have. I want you to be proficient in them, but I'm going to teach you about the safety of them because these things you have to respect.
Yeah.
These are not toys. These are nothing to play around with. But dad's going to show you how to use them.
Yeah. Aw.
I think that's the responsibility of every father who has kids that owns firearms.
Right.
This guy, I don't understand what he's being mad about. This is some internalized thing that's going on with him that I guess this finally pushed him over the edge. But it's just like, it's weird. That's the type of personality who would shoot up a place. So it's
that's
kind of ironic
true.
that he's talking about that.
And then he would also have feminist in his bio.
Well, what this is
Did
too is
Well, he probably would.
Let me see.
this man is the product of the mass propaganda campaign that the U.S. has been pushing on our entire population for decades at this point.
Yeah.
And that's the way I've started looking at people who are still wearing face masks too, because there's a period of time over 2020, over even
now.
the past couple of months where I was like, I don't want to live in the same country as these people. I hate you. You don't stand for anything that I stand for. There's no way that we can live in unison because we're so opposite. But now I've redirected my mindset to say, you know what? This is the victim of a mass propaganda campaign. This is the victim of psychological manipulation by our government. Why would a grown-ass man act that way? Because he is being lied to about guns, about statistics on gun violence, and who's perpetuating these types of things, and the realities of what happens when you take guns away from an entire country. Look at Canada and Australia. He's been targeted by a mass propaganda campaign, and you can look at any subset of society, whether it's climate change, guns, abortion rights, COVID-19. They've been so targeted and manipulated that they are legitimate like PTSD victims, or they're victims of this, and they have PTSD, and it like gets triggered when they see stuff like this.
Yeah, that's
okay,
exactly
so
right.
his Twitter is blocked. I'm on his link tree. This what happens when you click his link tree. Support anti-racism. I'm raising awareness, driving donations, and sharing information in support of justice and equality. He has something, Women's March. What is that?
See? Something I knew.
It brings him
If
to
you're
the
an
Women's March.
anti-racist, I automatically think you're probably
racist.
Actually,
Yeah.
His
racist.
Discord, but no, I don't see any pronouns in his bio.
But he's a feminist for sure.
Well, yeah, he has a link to the Women's March. It's just, you see these guys on the internet, and I'm like, I don't think these guys really exist. I think this is just something that they do. It may be like a weird hobby, but then when you see them in person, it kind of blows you back.
Yeah, I mean, this is, so I forgot what the name of the organization. I think Students of Democratic Society or something back in the 60s or 70s. They had a very specific goal of taking over the universities and the newspapers, the media. And this is a product of that. Because of the propaganda that's been going on for the last several decades, now you actually have people who think that they think that guns are the most, like, you know, the type of parents that wouldn't send their child to a friend's house to have guns in the house, but they would send their kid to like go to a friend's swimming pool.
Sure.
When statistically your child is much more likely to die by drowning than they are by being in a house near guns.
Yeah.
Like, and so this is planned. It's exactly what they plan to do. Take over the universities, take over the media, and then you can mass brainwash generations and make them believe that those kids are doing something wrong or they're doing something dangerous.
I think that guy is the type of guy that would definitely have pushed Sav while she was holding that sign.
Oh, for sure. And it's so funny, too, that you bring up the whole like male feminist thing, because I was actually on the World Economic Forum's website looking up Justin Trudeau, and on the very bottom of his gigantic bio is male feminist. And so I'm watching this video and I'm like, that's Justin Trudeau right now to the truckers. Like, this is why you don't give people trucks.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
Yeah, like male feminists, they're a hard thing to understand. It seems counter-evolutionary.
They're losers. They're pathetic. They need to be eradicated.
They're betas.
Yeah, I mean,
not
sometimes,
violently.
like sometimes talking about like the alphas and the betas things, like I'm not really sure like how to talk about that sort of thing. And
Me and Gina were talking about this last night. We said if you call yourself an alpha male, you're not an alpha male.
No. I mean, yeah, that's true. But even talking about like just to assume that guy is a beta, I mean, I don't know too much about like what are the characteristics that make someone alpha, beta, gamma, because there are gamma males that I think that are.
No, I think that there's just men in society.
Right.
And I think that there's feminine men and men who have been so corrupted and then they turn into that.
Right.
Like all these weird labels. It's like.
I honestly don't have a problem with the idea that there are feminine men or that we shouldn't allow feminine men, because not every man is meant to be a leader. Not every man is meant to be a father. Not every man is meant to be strong, courageous, whatever the characteristic is. So I give this guy a little bit of like a slide, like, okay, you know what, there's nothing I can do about that. You can't force someone to be alpha. It's just such a turnoff and kind of sad because, you know, as a man, you get this opportunity to to even achieve to be alpha. And when I say achieve to be alpha, I'm not necessarily talking about getting swole and, just projecting fear into other people, but just being a strong member of a community, being a great father, being a great husband. Like that to me is alpha. Like you can be short and stubby, but if you're a great husband, great father, that's alpha to me.
For
like,
sure.
Honestly.
Yeah.
And if you can chop wood.
Well, see, and I would even actually counter what you said, because you said not all men are made to be leaders, but biologically in the way that God created men is to be leaders.
Right.
So
No, I understand that.
So even what you just said, the example that you just gave, that man to his children and to his wife would still be a leader.
Totally.
So men are created to be leaders, and that is a subset of an entirely brainwashed generation. And because we've destroyed traditional values so much, men think they can act like a little bitch. No.
Yeah.
You are a leader. All men do have that within them. But society has manipulated everybody so much that this is where we're currently
And they've
at.
convinced us that there are no inherent differences between men and women. Men can be women, women can be men. So then you end up with men who act like women and women who act like men, because there are no boundaries. There's no definition. I mean, it's just like Matt Walsh says, like, what is a woman?
Yeah.
Define woman. And
Well,
they cannot define what
I
woman
can't define
is.
that just because womanhood it's different for everybody.
It's a lived experience.
You know what? One of my
Sorry,
favorite
what?
things I've ever experienced, Mike. So I went to the Women's March.
Why is she saying my name? She knows who I am. I'm sitting right next to her.
Because
That is my biggest pet peeve in movies and in like shows. Like, I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm getting so upset.
Wait,
but, like,
what's your pet peeve? When someone
I
says your
hate
name
it
like that?
in movies when two people who have known each other forever are like, you know what, Pete? I really do believe. You know what his name is. Why are you saying his name? You're having a conversation. Obviously, it's to establish who this person is in the movie. But
No,
like,
I
I
think
hate
it's like-
interviews and stuff that like, who did it? Where I just couldn't stand it. It was either an it was either an interview or debate where it was the Joe Rogan, Tim Pool, people from Twitter, the CEO of Twitter, and then the attorney that came from, and she's like, Tim, I understand. Guess what, Tim? Yeah, I don't really have that information.
You think
know,
it's like
Tim,
kind of
and I'm just like,
passive-aggressive?
you know what his name is. Stop saying his fucking name. It's so patronizing.
That's how I just talk to people.
No,
Damn.
I know,
me
and
too. I do
I'm like,
that too.
relax, guy. I'm like, the white guy's getting mad. Hide the guns. Everybody relax.
This is the first day she's also met me, so I understand it. And no, but it's just like one of those things that sets me off.
Interesting.
Interesting, because I say people's name in conversation when I want to emphasize something. Like
I think when we're talking, when you're saying, well, Mike actually brings up a good point, you're not saying, Mike, you bring up a good point.
Well, I would say that
No, you
because
wouldn't.
it's like,
and you haven't.
I was like, it's like I'm emphasizing something. Well,
I would
when
feel like if it was just me and Gina talking, I wouldn't
How
say her
often would you
name.
say her name?
I wouldn't say it often,
I
but
said it to
because
you in the
we're,
car, I think. I was
we're
like,
all three of
Sav.
us, maybe the podcast listeners need to be guided and directed of who I'm talking to. You never
Maybe.
know. Yeah,
Maybe if they're not watching, they're just listening.
I think about these types of things.
Okay, I'm sorry. I interjected, but
I completely
it is a
forgot
true
what I was
sign-
gonna say.
It was a true sign of an alpha to admit when he's wrong.
That's what I was going to say.
Women's March.
One of my favorite moments was I went to the Women's March. And I went with a sign that said only women can get periods, because I was like, oh, this is the Women's March. We're fighting for women's rights. Bet. And of course, there's a transgender woman, and
A man.
he sees my sign, and he's like, this is really
Your
offensive.
sign said only women can get periods. Okay, got
And
it.
I got attacked for that one too, of course, because, who would ever say at a women's march that only women can get periods? It's just like, I'm such a bigot. I know. And so I'm talking to this transgender woman, and he's basically like, this is why it's hurtful to me, blah, blah, blah. And like trying, because again, I'm naturally a curious person. I'm not going to these places to go hurt people's feelings. I'm going there to actually have a serious conversation with them.
Right. But
so
they don't believe that because you're holding such a provocative sign in their eyes. So
Right.
I get that. But anyway.
But we're having a good conversation. I'm like, tell me why this is offensive. So he tells me why. And I said, you're a man. You'll never have a period. You'll never give birth, and you'll never be a woman. And then he started crying. And I thought it was hilarious.
Who's crying?
Yeah, he was crying because he was upset at my sign. But he was never going to get a
He
period.
may not have
And
been
he's
upset
never...
at the sign. That may have been the moment that hit him where he realized, you're probably right. I'm never
He's
going to
like,
be
oh my
those
gosh,
things.
I'm never going to menstruate.
Yeah, I'm like, bro, you're not a woman. You're a man, man. Sorry.
You're a man. You
You got lucky, dude.
You got a dick. You're not a chick.
No, the reason I get mad about the period thing is because periods suck. They're painful. I hate them. They make your skin bad. They make you moody and hormonal.
They shouldn't make you. Shouldn't make your skin bad. and
They
moody.
do.
Yeah.
They do for me.
We'll
This
talk about
is-
that
this
later.
is
Yeah,
the thing
Gina,
I've been-
help me with
We'll
my
talk about
hormones
that
later.
later.
I've been saying it for the longest time, and people think I'm crazy when I'm saying that they're trying to erase women.
They are.
They really are. And I don't say that to be hyperbolic. It's when you start to say things like anybody can get pregnant, chest feeding
Pregnant people,
chest feeding mothers, or
Birthing
whatever it is.
people.
It's just like women do exist. You realize that, like, your language is slowly eliminating them.
Yeah,
and
this is why I love what John said on that the Satanism and liberalism video he did, where drag, like a gay dude using this fetishized caricature of a woman, is infinitely more offensive than somebody just putting black paint on their face and calling themselves black. because I mean, I know we just talked about this yesterday, but the identity of a woman is so much more meaningful and important than the identity of your race.
Yeah.
Because it's in our DNA, it's in our chromosomes. We can give life. We can do things with our body that men cannot.
Mm-hmm.
We can push a baby out of our body in a way that, like, there's nothing inherent that black people or Asian people can do that white people can't, right? So it's not as important of an identity. So that's why it's so much more offensive, because it really is the erasure of women.
So here's something, and just piggybacking off of what John said yesterday, and I figured there are 3 mixed race people here, so we can see how we answer this question.
Mm-hmm.
But when he was talking about white identitarianism, and he was talking about how blacks, Asians, Hispanics will talk about how race is of a pretty high importance when it comes to their identity, and how white people, only 5% of them say that race is important. When I was thinking about that, it's like, I don't know how race wouldn't be important to me just because I'm mixed. I can't really ascribe to one group or the other group. So how does would you even identify as anything? Like, yeah, I'm Hispanic, or no, I'm more Hispanic, or no, I'm more Filipino, or no, I'm more Korean, I'm more Italian. Like, I think for mixed people, it's a little bit different unless part of them is black, part black. I feel like a lot of the time, mixed kids who have
like Obama,
a black, right? They identify more with the black
think
side.
They're black, yeah.
If there's anything I've ever identified as, it's American.
Yeah,
that's it.
Same.
And it's weird to me too, because if you go to a doctor's office, it's like, what's your ethnicity? What's your nationality? What's this and that? And it's like, it's just interesting to me how even when you're going to like a doctor's office, for example, it's like, back in the day, you never had to fill out all of those things, and there weren't all of these labels and all of these different ways to divide society. And now it's like, you can't even just be like, I'm Hispanic, I'm from America. You know what I mean? It's just like, it has to be so brought down to the tiniest details to keep people like further divided. I really feel like that's what that tactic is.
Yeah,
it's really
that's exactly what it is. Yeah,
Though,
divide and conquer.
For every college application, I did put down Hispanic.
That's
just
smart.
Hispanic.
I always
got
put
it everywhere.
other, because you don't want to be Asian on a college application.
Oh, right.
What would you put?
Other. Other.
Smart.
I mean, that seems like a smart classification for someone who's for mixed people should just put other. But if they're trying to get that scholarship money.
Yeah.
Listen, if the system exists and I can exploit it, I'm going to.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
You might as well.
I don't want to pay taxes. There are loopholes that allow me not to pay taxes. I exploit that.
Yeah, because the government.
Oh, should I have said that on film? Like, I just see that's recorded.
IRS, don't listen.
Don't. I
that
pay
was
them.
satire.
This is satire.
That was a joke.
I don't make enough yet to qualify.
We love taxes.
Yeah. It's also, Sav, do you think that you should be able to work, make money, be able to keep that money, and be able to decide how you spend that money? Or do you believe that you should be forcibly taxed and then told what kind of healthcare you should buy?
Yeah, I think that I should work my whole entire life, never be able to own anything, and then the government should use all my taxpayer dollars to fund abortion.
But it's helping other people.
Fair.
So it's helping a lot of people with diabetes who then have heart issues, cancer, anything like that. But it's helping people, though.
Yeah. Healthcare is a human
You don't
right,
have diabetes.
Sure.
You don't have diabetes. No one in your family has diabetes. But you should help people because then you want children to die.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
that's how science
that's
works.
it.
Also remember, please, healthcare is a human right unless you're unvaccinated, in which case you should probably violently die a brutal death. So
That's what I should have asked that guy. I should have brought that up 100%. He's like, you think people should just die because they don't have healthcare? And I was like, well, how do you feel about unvaccinated people?
They should definitely
Damn it.
die.
Usually any debate that I have, it's 2 days later where I figure
Always.
out
You
things
think
that
about
I
it
should
and
have
you're like,
said.
oh, that was.
you're like brushing
really
your
cool
teeth
if I
like,
said that.
oh, I should have said
Yeah,
that.
Gina, how is your battery level? Do you feel like we've had a good conversation? Do you want to go more? Do you want to end it right now?
I mean, I have to empty my bladder, but we can keep going a little bit more.
Do you want to pee while Sav and I talk?
Really? Can I?
Yeah, you can. That's why we've got 3
you guys
cameras
talk it
going.
out.
Yeah. What would we talk about?
What would we, Mike? I'm gonna just hold this down here.
You
I'm
can do
so
that.
happy to keep going, but I can't sit up straight anymore. My back hurts.
Okay, that's fine.
So I'm bringing
Are
the
you
mic
still
down
in
here.
focus?
I'm like in the bottom corner of my shot, but that's
Oh,
where we're
God.
at. But
That's going to be like an editing nightmare for me. I will just keep it in the same thing though.
I'm
So
so
did
sorry.
I say on camera that you look like an original girlfriend of mine?
you did.
An original girlfriend.
And
an
Gina just left
ex-girlfriend.
me alone in a room with you. Please help.
I'm going to find her on Facebook, see if I could find her because I haven't spoken to her in easily 15, 20 years. So I'll see how she has aged and then be like, this is her.
Let me know so I can see what my potential future will look like.
Joanna, last name redacted. She lived on Long Island, about 2 or 3 towns away from me.
Mm-hmm.
Filipino. Where did she go to school? I think she went to Sacred Heart, which was an all-girls school.
Uh-huh.
I went to a Catholic high school, And it was cool because I was the dude that went to 2 proms. I went to her prom. She came to my prom. So this is pretty cool. But I remember that her grandmother was always around in the house because they had a multi-generational family. I remember her grandmother was always around in the house. I don't think her father liked me. I don't think her grandmother liked me. I think her mom was pretty nice as much as I can remember. But I don't know if are Filipinos, Gina, do you know if Filipinos are on the same level as Koreans as far as being like, no, if you're not Korean, I don't want my kids involved with you at all?
Well, I'm not really predominantly Filipino.
Okay.
Are you half?
Are you half or are you a quarter?
I'm Chamorro.
What's that?
My mom's from the island of Guam. So she's Filipina and she's Japanese, but we're Chamorro.
Oh.
So she didn't grow up in the Philippines.
She grew up in Guam.
Why? So now I'm saying that she's Filipina.
So
I was saying she's
the
Filipino
culture.
too.
If you do want to talk about that, the culture that I would identify with the most is Chamorro because my mom comes from the island of Guam. We have a big Chamorro family in San Antonio.
No wonder you're ghetto.
And then my dad's
Guam,
Hispanic
like
from
they can
California.
be hood.
So wait, is Guam Pacific Islander? Is that okay?
Yeah, it's right next to Japan,
Yeah.
Marianas Islands.
Yeah.
It's where America's Day begins.
Oh,
It's American
interesting.
territory, and they're, I believe, 12 hours ahead of us.
Okay.
So it's where America's Day begins. Very interesting on that front. But yeah, I'm more Chamorro, like culturally, I'm more Islander. And then my
Gotcha.
dad comes from, he's like California Hispanic. So yeah, that's probably where a little bit of the hood comes from, I would say.
Yeah.
Was he born and raised in Mexico or was he born here?
California.
Really?
He doesn't even speak Spanish,
So would he be called Chicano or no?
I guess.
You don't know? Or Maya?
What is Chicano technically? Is
Chicano?
that?
Can you look it up?
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to say that as like a...
Can you look it up, Gina? Thanks.
Can you look it up, bitch?
Look it up, you dumb bitch.
It's like, what do you think this
Chicano,
is?
I think Chicano is cultural, right?
An American of Mexican origin or descent, especially a man or boy.
So yeah,
Chicano.
he'd be Chicano then.
Mira, güey. Mira, órale, güey. Órale, güey.
So
What
yeah,
does Chicano literally mean? Okay.
Chamorro.
Yeah, it means that.
Yeah.
Chamorro.
Can I show you this funny video of a Mexican dude who has ended racism in 1 or 2 sentences?
yes.
Okay. Talk amongst yourself again, and I hope the mic is close enough. Because you see how close I am to
Yeah,
this mic?
yeah.
Please.
The
Sorry.
Chamorro people are the indigenous
being
people of the Mariana
problematic.
Islands, politically divided between the U.S. territories of Guam. My very first jiu-jitsu coach was from Guam.
Really?
Teddy. Love you, Teddy. He was the coach of the women's team at Half Gracie in San Francisco. So there's another person from Guam that holds a very special place in my heart. I miss you, Teddy. I don't know if he watches the show, but
Oh
there you
man,
go.
this was like.
So wait, what are we about to watch?
So if I can find it, but there's this Mexican guy who's like an on the street interview, and he said so he says the N word, and these 2 black guys walk by and they're like, what? And then
I
have you
love
seen
that
this?
video.
And
Yeah.
the guy's like, I could say it. I'm Mexican. I could say it. And then the black dude's like, órale, way, and they like it's this huge like friendship thing. I love it, and the title is always like, you know, Mexican guy ends racism. I think
that's
it's hilarious.
funny.
I'm gonna try and find it just
It's
so they
such
can
a
see
good
it.
video. It's such a good video.
And
It's
then
hilarious.
one thing I want to do as well is I was looking through the YouTube comments of the episode with John Doyle, and there's one question here that I want to get into later too.
How many
'Cause it
comments
was a
are on
good
there right
question.
now?
There's quite a few.
How many views?
Views 676.
Nice, on
Refresh.
day one. That's
yeah,
good.
on day one. That's pretty good. I mean, you know,
We're
John-
new.
693.
We're trying really hard. We're new.
693, 43 comments.
Nice.
So we have right now, I think the audio podcast is edging out the video podcast. So slightly more downloads on the audio podcast, which is really interesting. And I think with the appearance of John Doyle, we might start to get more male viewers and listeners.
Yeah, we have predominantly female viewers. I think it's because a lot of the people that find our show from the very beginning came from my Instagram and my following, and I think it's like 75 or 80% of my followers are women because, you know, a lot of my content is for women, I guess.
Right.
I don't know. I think because a lot of my followers have like just been kind of transferred over from my exclusively health and fitness days. Is that TV on? Because I can't see it.
Yeah, sorry. No, it's not.
Okay.
Are you ready for this, Gina? Let's
yeah,
just watch this for
I
a
think
second.
so.
It's
Such a good video.
So good. Oh, wait. That's not the full one. Hold on. God darn it. Where's the... Why can't... Okay.
Mexican guy ends racism.
Yeah, it was playing on like a different browser. Tlacuaches? Tahu?
The part, the mariachi music is so much better. I'm going to try and... Here, I think...
So all you niggas, white, watches. See, I'm Mexican. I can say what's up, nigga.
It's so good. It's so good. And honestly, like that wasn't planned. That was just a pure organic moment.
But that's how life used to be back in the 90s and early 2000s. Everyone was calling everyone the N-word.
Well,
as a friendly...
The problem is, and many comedians have addressed this, I think even Joe Rogan, but when you say the N-word, you're putting the word into other people's minds already, so you're effectively saying it. Oh, yeah. So the rule is, and I've had this conversation with my cousin who's black. I said, listen,
he's black, guys. It's okay.
No. I said, what do you think about either nobody could say it, black, not black, doesn't matter. Either nobody could say it or everybody could say it.
Right.
Either variation of it, hard R, soft A. No, because if it's such a bad word, it doesn't matter who's saying it. I've never understood the argument was this was a horrible word directed at us. We're taking power over it, and we're saying that. Okay, so I have some Jewish ancestry. If I walked around with a swastika saying I'm taking power over this symbol and I'm making it mine, would that go over well? Would it go over as good as Kanye saying it in a song?
Funny thing about swastikas, because
I know the history of them.
Yeah. They're actually a symbol of peace in Hinduism and Buddhism.
Everywhere. Navajos had it called whirling log. They're on so many.
Yeah.
I have a bunch of.
There's a huge movement in Europe.
Yes. So there's okay in the Native American a bunch of different tribes. They had this. It was part of their creation story, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's the whirling log, and the whirling log traveled around like down a river and ended up somewhere. It's something to do with the creation story. I'll look into it more. But the whirling log looks like a swastika, but it's not canted at 45 degrees. And Tibetan temples have the swastika, not canted but straight. Japanese cultures have it. Christian symbols, Greek, just everywhere. So the Nazi, even pre-1935, there was a army division, I believe the 45th Infantry Division, that was based in Kansas, I believe, whose before 1935, their symbol was a swastika. Yeah. And after the Nazis took power, they changed it to a Thunderbird just because they had a lot of native members in that particular division. So they paid homage to that by using the whirling log. But then when Nazis came into power, they said, oh, well, we can't use this symbol anymore. They've basically corrupted it. So they changed it to a Thunderbird. So the swastika has been around for like millennia, and people don't understand the history behind these things, and symbols are so subjective. So if I want to take over a symbol, make it mine, I'm not wearing a swastika to shove it down the throats of Jews or anything like that. I'm saying, well, I can take over the symbol because it has different meanings to a whole bunch of different people. That's why I've never understood that with the word. You know what I mean? If you're taking the power over the word, why can't someone else who maybe is white or not black, Mexican, whatever, why can't they have power over that word as well if they're not using it in a derogatory way?
Yeah.
Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it absolutely does. I also think about, I lowered my chair a little bit, like the word Negro, like you're not allowed to say that anymore. Well,
Negro or even colored, you can't say that.
Right, colored. And the distinction between people of color and colored people, like, is this a joke? Are we really making that much of a distinction? Like one is offensive, but the other isn't?
Well, it's like Oriental. If anything, exactly. Asian is a very broad categorization. How do I say that?
Categorization is a word.
Categorization of people. Right. Asia is India. It's Mongolia. Yeah. It's China. It's Japan. Oriental, when you're talking about Korea, Japan, and China, that makes more sense because you're being a little bit more specific. Yeah. I don't know the history of how Oriental got to be such a bad thing.
I learned it in college once. I forgot. It was definitely like, the colonizers. The reason that leftists and liberals and academics say that you're not supposed to use Oriental is because the term was created by and used by originally a
imperialists?
a colonizer, a white guy. So they say that it is offensive because Asians themselves did not use the word, which is stupid.
Eddie Huang advocated for the Orient. He advocated. He's like, we should start calling things Orient. What's so fucking offensive about that? He said it to Bill Maher. It's pretty interesting.
I want to interject here too, because this is why conservatives lose. So there was videos of Joe Biden going around where he was saying Negroes and he was saying color. Now, Joe Biden has said the hard R N word, which I'm like, I don't condone that.
Even if it's in context of him quoting someone.
At the time said Negroes and colored people. The conservative base took hold of those videos and were like, oh, look, Joe Biden said Negroes. Joe Biden said this or that. And it's just like, or I think, who was it? It was like, he was talking about Jackie Robinson. He was like, he was the greatest Negro baseball player of his time.
Yeah. At the time,
which
they had the
he
Negro
was.
Leagues.
Yeah, and that's what they were called. And so when conservatives latch on to this and they say, oh, look at Joe Biden doing this and that, they're playing into the same manipulation tactics of the language
But I think
that
what
the left does.
But I think what they're doing, for the most part, is just pointing out the hypocrisy. Is that?
But I don't think it's a pointing out of the hypocrisy.
I guess because
I don't think it is either.
Yeah,
I kind of
some
agree
people,
with that.
because some people do both, right? So some people just point it out and they're like, listen, if Trump said this, there would be riots in the streets. But then I guess there are some people who are like, Joe Biden is racist. This is so awful. When it's like we shouldn't really be giving much.
Look at his policies, especially in the past in the Senate. Look at those policies, and then really be critical of that. Like I really don't care what he said if he's using historically appropriate language. And it's also the word Negro comes from the Spanish word negro. It means black. So if you're okay with saying black people, what's so wrong with saying Negro or negro? Like it's just I don't understand it.
I just think that that's why we lose so much on our side, is because instead of trying to take back our language and saying, hey, I'm a free speech absolutist, anybody can say any word, we say, oh, look it, we're not allowed to say that word, but they are. It's counterproductive, and it's like adding fuel to the manipulation of language fire that we're already all experiencing.
So basically you're saying that we should all start saying the N-word.
Yeah, say every word.
I sing it in my car.
Say every single word. Bro, when I tell you I'm a free speech absolutist, somebody could call me a wetback and tell me to go back to Mexico today, and I'd be like, okay.
Yeah, like I don't care if someone calls me a chink. Like I just really don't care.
Yeah, it's just... Hold on, I'm putting it like that. You keep it up. Everyone is so sensitive nowadays, and I miss when you could kind of just be mean to people and be really blunt. I do.
I miss that too. I mean, I think people were happier back then too. All right, so I'm going to get into this question. I'm really shifting gears here. This is not a good segue, but it's a question from yesterday's episode with John Doyle that I think is good to address. And I know it may not apply to everyone in the room, but this is from Sydney McKenna.
Don't make assumptions.
I think she is... I accidentally disliked it. I gotta undo that. I think
this is on YouTube?
Yeah, I think Sydney McKenna is someone that has listened to quite a few of our episodes, so I appreciate the question. It's like kind of long. She says, I would love to hear Gina flesh out her position on women working versus being in the home. I agree with what she says, but I can't help but feel that there is a disconnect with her hustling and working on this podcast and other things, but also stating that women need to submit and take care of the home. Feels like the hard work that goes into all of her ventures very much reflects the left's values for women, parentheses, work and gain influence. I'm sort of struggling with this myself. I love taking care of my home and taking care of my man, but I also love my job. Is there a balance? Yeah, I mean, I appreciate this question, and I really, what I am seeing a lot on my social media and a lot of women's responses to the show is that a lot of women and moms out there are really struggling with this for a lot of different reasons. I think what we talked about yesterday, I think what our society and our mainstream culture has done is really prevent women from understanding what our true nature is and understanding what our natural desires and what natural law is in terms of men and women, the biological differences between us. So I know that there are a lot of moms and women, mom and wives out there who are really struggling with this. And it's something that I really struggle with. And that's exactly why I decided to quit my job with Candace, because a lot of people thought I was crazy because in many ways it was my dream job. I mean, I cold emailed Candace in like 2019 to go on her show, and then she brought me on and 5 days later offered me a job, So it was one of those things where it was like, it was truly my dream job. But when I had my daughter, I had to really reprioritize and ask myself, do I want to be in an office every single day from 9 to 5? Absolutely not. I mean, I had to go back to work when my daughter was 7 weeks old. And for all the moms out there, that is so young. I mean, think about your daughter when she was 7 weeks. Yeah. She's like a peanut, barely, eyes are barely even open. Yeah. Yes. Like, like her eyes are barely even open. And like Candace was really generous and gave me a work from home policy until the end of March. But I went in like 4 days later and I was like, look, I'm going to be totally honest. Like, I know that even if I work from home until the end of March and I got to come back in April, I know I'm going to say no. I know I'm going to say I'm not ready for it. And so I said, instead of wasting your time and your resources, I think it's time for you to find somebody who can really give 110% to the job. Yeah. And that's why I quit. And it was a really hard decision for me. So yeah, I do the podcast now, and I still like have health clients, and I still write and freelance and things like that. But I think what this question is, it's a misunderstanding of what it means to be feminine and what it means to be masculine. So kind of like we talked about yesterday, it is a caricature to think that a woman, a mom and a wife can't have a public voice, can't work, can't do things outside of the home because it takes away from her being able to be a present mother and a submissive wife. I truly believe it is a caricature to think and say that a woman can't do anything else outside of the home.
Yeah.
Right? At the end of the day, it definitely comes down to what you and your husband decide. And it's really at the end of the day, even more than that, between you and God. Because especially as somebody who believes in the natural law and the way that God created men and women, if you are someone who's Christian and comes at it from a Christian perspective, that is something that you have to decide with God, and you never really have to answer to anybody else. For me personally, I'm home every single day with my daughter, and I'm so glad I quit my job to do that. And I know she's saying she feels like there's a disconnect, like, oh, well, you can't work on your podcast and also be submissive to your husband. I mean, I'm not saying this to be unkind, but I find that to be pointedly ridiculous.
Well, Carly mentioned something yesterday that I thought was interesting. She says, you can work and have kids. I don't think you can work and be a mother. Like she was saying, how women who have these high pressure jobs, how people say, well, you can't be a good mother at the same. And she's like, no. I think it, and maybe I'm kind of messing up what she's saying, but I think she has a point. Like, if you're very career focused and you have kids, I think you can be very career focused and have kids. I don't know if the term, you can't be a mom to them necessarily.
I agree with that.
Like, does that make any sense?
It totally makes sense. Yeah, it's extremely hard. And I mean, that's why my husband and I talk all the time about when our daughter gets even older. She's only 4 months old now, but when she gets even older, like, I'm going to have to do less and less and less outside of the home, because I want to be able to homeschool her. Like, I want to be able to start teaching her from a very, very young age. And, now she's at an age where, like, I don't like to leave her for more than like an hour at home, and I only leave her to come do this. You know how I'm always like rushing to go back?
It's very weird when I come back home and I haven't seen her for a couple of hours. There's always like, oh my God, why have I missed you so much?
I know, it's really bizarre. And it's that's why I quit my job, because breastfeeding, it's like, I need to be around her basically 24/7.
Well, and James, can I jump in on this one too? Because you mentioned homeschooling.
So what's funny is
I'm like, Mike, you're relevant. Anyways, I'm kidding. I love you. No, it's fine. So getting back to the whole concept of homeschooling, because I was thinking about how, like, at the beginning of this entire show, I was bashing it.
Yeah.
But actually, now that I'm older, I'm really grateful that my mom homeschooled me. And I think so many women have been brainwashed to think it's okay to send their kids to school for 8 hours a day to be raised by the state. Yeah. Because ultimately, that's what sending your kid to a public school is, or even daycare. You have a completely different person, a stranger, raising your child, spending the majority of your child's life with your child. And so many women in society have been brainwashed to think, like, this is how normal life works. You go to work, you send your kid to school, you see your kid at the end of the day for an hour or two, and that's normal life. That's how things should be.
It's very interesting. Who are you know who the people who are most likely to cheat on their either husbands or wife with? Do you know?
I think I know. So from what I've read is that
it's people at work.
Right. And I've also another variation of that is women who earn more money than their husband does are much more likely to cheat on their husband.
Imagine you're spending 8 hours of your day with the same people every day, 5 days a week.
Yes.
40 hours. How many hours a week do you get
at
with
home?
Your significant other, with your kids?
Exactly.
So it seems like a reasonable thing to, at their formative years, instead of sending them away to strangers, it would one, make them more comfortable, and two, help you build that relationship with your child. Because I said that to people. I was like, listen, you're sending your kids away to agents of the state, and they're like, whoa, agents of the state? That's pretty, you're exaggerating that. I'm like, no, public schools are run by the state. They are state agents. They're held with power by unions that they can't get out of, that they have to forcibly give dues to. I was like, any teacher who joins a teacher union, I don't know if they're in it for teaching. I'm sorry. They might say that they are, but I don't know. I want to give them the benefit of the doubt.
Think about the education system as well as a whole. It is entirely created to raise the next generation to be subservient to authority.
Well, not only that, public schools, they're not bound to the public. You can't do anything. When a public school screws up, has any sort of kerfuffle, especially like in Virginia, what was going on, and what was that school district?
It was Loudoun County.
Loudoun County?
Yeah.
Imagine the public outrage of that. But they're not beholden to the public.
That's
they can
right.
do whatever they want. School
Which is
boards
why
can
our
do whatever
kids are
they
still
want.
masked up.
Yeah, they're
nationwide.
not public schools.
Yeah.
They're indoctrination camps. That's how I'm going to call it. If you
They
think I'm being
really
hyperbolic,
are.
I'm really not.
Don't let the state raise your child. And again, that's just goes into the destruction of the traditional family and traditional roles. It's like mothers should be raising their kids. And then if you look at the education system, look at the way our society is right now. Imagine if ever since you're a little kid, you're being raised up and educated to play on your strengths instead of forcing all kids to learn trigonometry and geometry.
And a
that
standardized test taking.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
always thought it
that
was such
may
like
go
an-
into journalism. It's like it doesn't make sense.
That's why kids are always on these types of medication. They feel the pressure. They're killing
Yeah.
themselves at
Exactly.
college. I've never understood that. Why fourth grade? Imagine us in fourth grade, fifth grade. Well, not you because you were homeschooled. But fourth grade, it was earth science, math, English, geography, a language possibly. It's like why would you focus so much attention on all these different things when reading, arithmetic as a base, pretty good on. Find what these kids are interested in rather than inundating them with so many subjects, and then on top of that they have to do 3 hours of homework when they get home.
Mike, and actually, so this is my revelation moment of why homeschooling was so important, because I did go to school until I was in fourth grade. My mom pulled me out because my teacher, and I'll never forget this, she was kind of bullying me, and as a kid I didn't realize it, and now looking back I'm like, oh my goodness, I talked a lot in class. I talked a lot, and so my teacher created a horseshoe of desks, right?
Yeah.
She put all the bad kids in the middle. I tried my hardest not to talk, to be on my best behavior so I could get out of the horseshoe. She would never let me get out of the horseshoe because I talked too much. I was being punished in public school for talking, and now I've made an entire career out of it.
I know. Isn't that fantastic?
Yeah, that's how it works usually.
Think about that.
I think that's where we're going to end it.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna say
How do
one
you
more
feel?
thing too. One more added thing I want to say, because so women, when they ask this question, like, oh well, you can't work and also be a mom. That's like saying that a husband whose job is to lead the home and provide. That's like saying that the husband should never cook or clean the dishes or vacuum or look after the kids. These are caricatures. So when we talk about a woman submitting to her husband and being domestic and
gender roles, okay, I'm not
and-
going to subscribe to any sort of gender roles.
well, yeah, we love gender roles and nurturing the home and raising the children. None of us mean that the woman can't do anything else in life.
Right.
It's like saying that since a man's meant to provide, he can't do anything else in the home. Like you can't ever help each other with your roles. You know what I mean? So I think it's a good question. I understand, and I know that there are a lot of moms and wives watching. You yourself may be struggling with this too, but at the end of the day, I think that you know what's best for your family. You know what it actually means to raise your kids and to be present. I'm going to recommend a really great book, which is actually what made me quit. It's called Being There by Erica. Her last name starts with a K. Really interestingly enough, she was rejected from going on a lot of interviews and media on her media tour because her book talks about the significant importance of the biological mother being present with her child for the first 3 years of her life. And none of the media outlets wanted to talk to her because they found it to be so offensive. So I highly recommend that book if you're a mom or a wife who's like about to have kids or has young kids and you're trying to decide what to do in terms of like raising your child, and also if you need to work and balancing that out. That book is really great because she also does help a lot of moms who do need to work, because there are a lot of families out there whose wives and moms, they have to work in some capacity. And she lays out a lot of really useful information for moms who are trying to balance motherhood and also working. And one thing she says, spoiler alert, working from home is like, obviously, I mean, it's common sense. It's like the best thing that you can do for your child if you do have to work. So speaking of kids, I'm going to go see my daughter and breastfeed her. So bye.
Bye,
Oh, let's say
guys.
thanks to Sav.
I won't
Thank
put
you.
the camera on Sav because her light went
Her
out.
light
But
went
Sav,
out.
thank you so much.
We
Thank
love
you.
Savanah
We
Hernandez.
talked for so long that her light went
That
out.
was fun. You guys are great. Mike, one of my new favorite podcasters. I'm only here for Mike.
Can
Sorry,
you see?
Jeans.
Can you let's see if you can get the hand in frame for like a high five? Reach. There you go.
Fake news. They hate each other. Bye.
No, that's not true. We bonded while you were taking this.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
We
That's
did.
actually why I went to.
Whoa.